Hello, welcome to my channel. This story began on the darkest night, when all people are sleeping tightly. But some people are engaged in murders. After all, there are those who shed someone else's blood. These commands were just in the forest with machine guns in their hands. The commander gave the team to hurry and move faster. He wanted his comrades to stand on all fours and crawl out without moving. One of the people replied that he understood. The commander explained that they had only 15 minutes in stock for evacuation. Meanwhile, another macho sat on a tree and said that the goal was in motion. He explained that this is the headquarters and the goal was accepted. It is necessary to expect support. The guy who was sitting on the tree realized that something was wrong. After all, they just finished loading. He received a notification on the phone that he was just a signalman and is not required to heroize. You need to wait for support. The boy realized that he had a chance and only 50 meters left until the next purpose. When the enemy approached him, the guy immediately grabbed his hand by the throat and neutralized him. He also acted with the second enemy and simply scattered everyone else. The boy asked what it was. He was very dexterous and skilled. He decided that it was too much annoying and asked his radio comrade as he was audible. Major General requested a direct video call and asked to answer him as soon as possible. The boy told his grandfather that he was a little busy and asked why he was calling. Grandfather began to call his grandson and asked where he was now. Is he really on the assignment now? The grandson, of course, was in full combat readiness and already neutralized many opponents. Then the boy asked if he knew that he had tortured drug surgery and whether he saw the video. Grandfather asked if he was thinking that he was not aware of his stupid skills. Maybe he can put them all alone, but it is very dangerous. Grandfather dawned on and he asked if he was really alone and where his comrades are. Is he really doing this again and again? Breaks ahead of all. Meanwhile, the enemy was already getting a sharp, long knife. But the boy was on it from above and asked where the goods are and how many people here, whether he would guard the warehouse. The man asked not to kill him in the backyard. 13 packages are awaiting transport, and this is all that he knows. The man asked not to kill him. Meanwhile, other guys already ran up to them and were interested in who was there. The boy was angry and could not understand why he was noticed. He told his grandfather that he was guilty of being distracted. The boy had already begun to instruct goals in order to deal with him as soon as possible. Grandfather asked whether he spoke just in Portuguese and when he managed to learn him. This is the only thing that worries him. Grandpa asked if it was better for him to find out about his current state of affairs. He explained that this is behind the boxes. The guys told their comrades that their enemy is upstairs and asked to grab him rather. Most of the fighters of special forces from units and intelligence prefer U.S. troops. The boy, without thinking twice, decided to activate the shock blow module. He rose up as high as possible and decided to deliver a crushing blow to his opponents. Enemies asked their guys to be careful and take care of, because someone steps on top of them. And why not? Because there is more diversity. The boy asked his grandfather why he called him and asked to stop carrying nonsense. Meanwhile, the struggle continued and many bright purple lightning erupted from him. These lightnings simply scattered all the opponents around. Grandfather answered the grandson that he had nothing more to do because other old people and he was already at an advanced age. But their grandchildren have already married and brought children. His life is very sad since his father died and he is all that he has left. He does not just love field outputs. So he doesn't even meet anyone and never met girls and that he was not so gay or he... The boy was looking for signals nearby and began to use the search for implementation modes. The information was intercepted and the guy asked if there was a problem on their side. An unknown sender said that they had an alarm from a secret unit. Do she really have a traitor in her group and it is necessary to find out who he is at all? The guys instructed the machine guns to the unknown and wanted the traitor to die. One of them by the walkie-talkie asked to report who opened fire and what was happening there at all. The kid decided that the voice simulator is available and he wants this pile of miserable traitors to die more likely. He asked if they heard him. A man with a walkie-talkie realized that this was his voice and asked who it was. The commander gave the team to retreat to his guys, and they were heading to the helicopter. The boy realized that the signal was gone, and a shutdown occurred. The connection failed, and where this old fox is sent. The system turned on the remote control function as soon as possible. The boy thought that he could play a good playing point on the helicopter control point to release steam. He told his boss that he could no longer control the helicopter. Then his grandfather asked the nasty boy whether he heard at all what he said, or he continues to ignore his old man. Whether he hears him really. He must marry no later than 25 years and get children to 26. The boy asked the grandfather to discuss this normal another time and not through a small screen. It is not particularly suitable for such conversations. Grandpa asked how he dares to read his notations, and if he does not talk to him now, he will avoid this conversation again. He wants 5 grandchildren for 3 years and asks him to marry and stop practicing this commanding garbage. He again asked his grandson whether he understood him, but the boy accidentally pressed the detonation button. Is this thing flying right on it? Above their head was a helicopter. The boy began to run as soon as possible. In his eyes, misunderstanding and horror were red. The boy was in touch with his grandfather and said that he was now a little not able to speak and asked him to call later. Grandfather could not understand really he had just hung up. Now he asked not to blame him for what would happen next. Grandfather asked the captain to initiate an order. The captain immediately listened to his commander-in-chief. The rest of the guys asked their comrades to search the area immediately. Jiang Chan should be nearby. The guys immediately accepted the order and said that they were put forward. One of the guys asked how the helicopter managed to explode here. This happened very close to them. Then the boy raised his hand up and greeted the guys, asked where they had been warned for so long. The pilot seemed to fall asleep and crashed into a tree or something like that, and he has nothing to do with it. Then the guys asked the others to surround him and focus on the perimeter to make sure that there were no witnesses and uninvited guests left and that they could get into their network. The boy said that it was just self-defense. The children were told that they received orders and it was necessary to execute them. The guy had to listen to the radio channels only. The boy said that this would go to the report and he had to follow the orders of the headquarters. Then the guy asked when the last time something happened. He was then promoted and he asked not to forget to write about part with the helicopter they hit. If he adds it to the report, he will only be satisfied. Then he asked from Lee's team, and it seems someone in his headquarters favors the hire. The boy said that this is a communications officer, Jiang Cheng. These are urgent documents from the command center, and he asked to immediately execute the command directive. The boy was very surprised. Did he really say that it was from the team center? He began to open the document, namely a notification of dismissal to the reserve. The young master was told that they drove up to the college of TNI. Parishka decided that he would remember this to his grandfather. He could not understand what kind of order it was, how he could even demand such an assignment from him, and he left the car thinking about it. How can he marry a candidate and make a child for 3 years? What kind of military assignment is this? Meanwhile, his mother thought about how his impeccable son and whether he fulfills his grandfather's assignment. The son asked his mother whether he had to do this, and it seems that he came to school too early. She asked him to behave properly. This is a very prestigious school for children of the most elite people in the country. They pay very well and he must behave properly and show himself from the best side. Mother asked that she did not hear that he was thinking again with his military little things, and his mother loves him very much. The boy was still talking on the phone. Meanwhile, on a car, one of the parents asked the others to be more lively. A man in glasses saw a girl and asked her to go with them, and as soon as possible. The woman asked them to stop arranging riots here. This is a very prestigious school. Meanwhile, some kind of man with glasses began to get out of the car and approach the girl. He grabbed her unexpectedly from them and asked to climb into the car, more likely to scream. She asked to immediately let her go and called for help. One of the men asked to be careful with her, after all, if he wanted to harm. The woman screamed that she would call the police to grab them. Then one of the men asked Miss Coral to stop resisting, because they are not bad people. The boy began to use the activation of the Squire mode. He thought that even if these guys look like hired bandugas, this is not a battlefield, and he should use not a lethal method of their submission. The boy went to one of the guys in black sunglasses and called him Mr. Then the guy turned to him and exclaimed that this was not his mind. He said that this should not sway him. Jiang Chan thought that how he dared, and after all this is a real world, and he could not just take and break him to the loss of the pulse and break the door of the car. After all, he can't do this in any way, and tried to calm himself and pick up to follow the plan. The guy in the sunglasses told the young man that he seemed to have a constipation. He asked that this was with his face, and decided that he was probably scared. The guy began to laugh and exclaimed that it was already too late. His physiognomy grimaced in a malicious grimace. The boy asked the next time not to climb into his own business, and squeezing his fist approached him. But his opponent threw him back with a lightning strike, first grabbing his throat with one hand. The guy asked for permission to give him another chance, if he only releases the girl and apologizes to her. Then the man was very surprised and laughed, asked if this was a joke and whether he knows who he was and who works for. The man asked him to let go immediately. The boy asked he really was not going to do it. The man asked again if he hurt him. He tried to take a reception and turn his hand to his enemy. After all, he told him to let him go immediately. But the boy immediately struck him on physiognomy. The guys around watched what was happening and, when shocked, clenched their fists. One of them gave the command to nail him and catch this scoundrel immediately. The guys were already approaching their enemy faster. One of them was behind this guy and clamped his fist to deliver a crushing blow to him. Meanwhile, the girl who sat in the car began to scream and asked to be careful. A heavy fist hit the physiognomy of this strange, very impudent guy, and he leaned back far. The rest of the guys asked their comrades what they were doing and asked to beat him. Another guy apologized and began to beat the physiognomy again of this scoundrel more and more. The blow behind the blow flew towards the guys. One of them has already been broken and knocked to the floor. The boy asked if the face hurt. He asked really, the guy does not want to apologize. While he said someone came up unexpectedly from the other side and began to clap his hands. Jiang Chan immediately turned in his direction, setting himself with a thought who this guy is. The boy continued to clap his hands and exclaimed that he was impressive. Very good skills, and he called him a friend. The guy explained that his name is Fan Tianhao. He asked how to call him. Jiang Cheng began to look for information about this guy. One of them asked not to be rude to the young Mr. Fan. He asked to bow to the young master immediately. Jiang Cheng exclaimed that he now knows him. The guy replied that he was really Fan Tianhao. Then the second enemy asked what now and what he found there. The boy explained that yesterday at 12:50 he met someone interesting. He told him that he would meet Fan Tianhao before going to the Tianai College. The guys became interested in what he further told him and both froze in anticipation. Jiang Chan paused a little, and then he replied that he was told as if he would soon have huge problems. He crossed the road to someone who could not do this, and this girl was. The guy in the sunglasses wanted to object something, but the boss stopped him and asked him to be silent. Fan Tianhao asked where he found out who this person was. He looked into his eyes wanting to find out the truth. But the guy said that he had nowhere to know, but this is what he informed him. He also said that he was very unlucky this month. He also has a problem with insomnia, and that even the doctor cannot help him. In principle, this is all that he said. Then Fan Tianhao asked if this person said anything about medicine. The guy thought that the moment that he crossed the road can be easily found out, since rumors go about this. But how he found out about his insomnia, especially that he went to the doctor about this. No one had to know about it. The guy with glasses could not understand why the young gentleman suddenly began to behave so positively and asked what kind of medicine it was. Jiang Cheng explained that this person is an expert. He also said that he should not glow in public because something connected with Germany will kill him. Fan Tianhao asked how to understand this. The system issued the detection of the nearest German car. There was an activation of electronics hacking, and penetration is completed, changing the engine settings to a state of overheating. The boy asked if something is in the area of 12:30. Is it not right now? Before he had time to finish, the guy called his boss and pointed to the car. He said, pointing a finger at the car, that his car had just smashed. He asked whether the young Mr. Fan did not buy it recently from a German expert. And how could this happen? Jiang Chan asked only to look at it. He asked if the guy was not glad that he did not manage to sit in her. Fan Tianhao immediately thanked him for the information. He asked for permission to meet him later. When the car was leaving, the fan man asked, what about the girl? But the guy replied that they have problems much more serious. Meanwhile, a girl approached Jiang Chan. She took the boy's hand and looked into her eyes. She explained that it was Fan Tianhao, the son of Fan Wei from the Fan conglomerate. Many media and other information media projects receive financial support from them. If he finds out that he lied to him, then she is afraid that he will find him soon, and good will not end. Jiang Chan asked her where she found out that he had lied to him, and what would happen if all this was true. The girl explained that the expert knowing about the problems of Tianhao in the middle of the city, and it is difficult for her to imagine what kind of game he started. The boy said that she never asked what he was doing here. Isn't she interested in who he is? He explained that he had his own reasons to fulfill the assignment. The girl asked was not a new teacher and exclaimed that it was just wonderful. She is also a teacher from school Tianai, and she is a teacher of Chinese. Then the boy asked if she wanted to go through a small test. He wanted to make a bet with her. If she can guess the riddle, then she will do something for him. When the girl agreed, he asked to listen to the riddle. Can she name 3 consistent days without using words Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? The girl thought for a long time and said that she could not use any of these days. But what about another language or other dialect? She rackled her head and eventually turned to the guy and asked her to tell her an answer. Jiang Chung said that the answer would be today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. Will she be the honor to see him in the future? The girl was very surprised at such a simple answer. He asked Miss Coral if she knew what these were the guys. Those, then she were disturbed very well, knew her. The girl asked if he was his name. The boy explained that his name is Jiang Cheng. They say that this ignorant, who was next to the guy from the Fan family. He asked if she knew anything about him. The driver's name is Qian Shou. He is a young gentleman from the Sui family, and he has some problems with his father, and he is not interested in helping in the family business. The guy who stood next to Fan Hao's name is Bao. He is very arrogant and relies on the influence of his mother that she recently married a second time for the mayor of the city. The boy listened to the girl and said that everything is clear to him and now he knows what to do next. Meanwhile, the young Mr. Bao said that they wanted to make a selfie with him. Meanwhile, the boy was asked what he wants. The sun did not stop shining and the day was just beautiful. The boy stood opposite the stepmother Jiang Chan. She was the dean of the Tian'ai College and the woman was called Mu Yu. She asked the guy what position he needed. She wanted to know so that mother would appoint him to a suitable position. The boy thought that this was a very awkward situation. And why he is again a teacher, he is not in the know what to teach them. Crossing his arms over his chest, he looked at the girl and asked if there was a class on intelligence and implementation. The girl replied that if they taught such a college, she would be afraid to close the school. And then the boy asked what about skydiving and driving on the off-road or shooting from firearms. But when the girl refused him, she thought that Jiang Chan really had no place here. The poor guy did not have a normal childhood, and the Special Forces is not ready for such a difficult thing as ordinary life. Mu Yu, in this case, asked mother to choose for him. Jiang Chan agreed and said that he would do it. Then the girl asked to see his skills and said that they could be useful. There may be something like physical exertion or something related to the activities of military training. Does he want to be a physical training teacher? It will need to teach these students the basis of military training and teach them discipline and conduct lessons of a proper healthy lifestyle. While this is connected with health, he will fully deal with this. Meanwhile, the students watched something in the phones and asked to remove their hands from the beetle. She looks very cool. The guys simply talked with each other loudly on the sports ground. One of the students said, "Then this is very cute." The other asked to remove her hands from her beetle. One of the students exclaimed that they ruined the game. Another said that he had ended money to further put it. He asked to leave him alone. The boy thought that he needed to hold out. They are not his children and you can beat them. But he really wants to slap them. And now 20 minutes passed. The girl introduced their new physical education teacher, Mr. Jiang Chan. In the future, he will conduct a class in physical education, and the girl asked to greet him all together. One of the students said that the new teacher looks very young. Will she really leave them with this guy? They told the teacher that he looks very good and asked how to call him. Miss Xiaofan laughed and said that every day of the kids it was becoming more and more difficult to control. Even she began to be angry when she saw them for the first time. Then she wished him good luck and said that she was leaving them on him. One of the girls asked to find her beetle, but the second exclaimed that she was the first to see him. When the students continued to rude, the guy suddenly screamed at them and asked everyone to be silent. He barked at the guys and asked to immediately configure the silence. The students were immediately scared and fell silent. The girl asked her comrade to stop. Then he asked if she wanted to ask the physical man's number. The guys continued to rush. Jiang Chan could not stand it and again barked at them to immediately shut up and stood quietly. The guys further continued to talk to each other and say that they would not do this. One of the guys grimaced and exclaimed that they would not stand quietly. This is very stupid. The guys continued to laugh and say that they did not know how to do this. The boy threw an evil look at them. He poked a finger at one of the students and asked to introduce himself immediately. He looked sadly into his eyes and asked him he would not do what he had just told him. Then the guy boldly looked at him and told the teacher that he was still too young. He asked, "Do they behave like that with the students?" I asked him to not get it better because he is just a teacher. Jiang Chung grimaced menacingly and asked, "Really? He really thinks so?" He asked to approach him and explained that he wanted to teach him something. Then the guy began to scream and ask what he was doing. The boy pressed him on his shoulder and asked him to straighten his shoulders. After that, he hit him on his back and gave the command to pull himself up and not stand like boiled. Then he hit him with his foot in the back place and asked to close his legs together. The students were very surprised and immediately fell silent. They looked together what the teacher would do next. There was a colorful and fabulous day outside. The guy went to his friend and grabbed his head. He began to correct the hairstyle to a red-haired guy and exclaimed that he was now just neat. He really made him an incredible hairstyle. But others laughed and said that he looked like a monkey. But another comrade asked what other monkey, because he clearly looks like a villain, and laughed even more. Then the boy asked why they laugh. Do they really want to join him? The red-haired guy was very angry and called him a villain. He clenched his fist and asked how he dared to mock him at all. He began to approach his enemy as soon as possible and wanted to hit him. But the boy was not a miss, and a lightning-fast blow turned him off. He said that the student should study with the teacher. He did not stop and looked at his opponent, exclaimed that at first he had to earn it. The red-haired guy was already lying on the ground, holding onto his physiognomy and sighing. He has not yet risen from the ground, but already wanted to insult this man. The red-haired man began to call on and scream at his enemy and say that he would kill him. One of the guys told the rest that there was a drama. The second exclaimed that Jokai raged away. The guy crossed his arms over his chest and looked menacingly at the guys. Since he does not know what respect is, he asked for permission to teach him. The boy took a large coin in his hand and made his fingers. The coin flew upward towards that red-haired guy. She hit his throat, and the guy was simply shocked by such a turn of events. The red-haired squeezed his fists and looked menacingly at this guy. He said that he could not speak and asked someone to help him. Jiang Chung asked if anyone now wants to learn how to military construction. He would like to teach them individually, one person. One of the students asked if it was an acupuncture point. The guy said that he was really handsome. One of the students told the teacher that she would be the first. Jiang Chan was delighted and said that the girls seemed to agree. What about the guys? The guys also exclaimed that they agree. And then she began with a roll call. The teacher called everyone by name and surname, and the guys answered. Jiang Chan asked Zhou Kai if he still has something to say. He came closer to him and asked not to move. He could be much painful. The guy went up to him and touched the back of his finger. Red-haired, promised to teach him a lesson. He threatened that the teacher would still wait for him. The guy looked at his teacher and asked him to go somewhere with him. The guys noticed that Zhou Kai was trying to lure her physical education. The second said that he would probably call his brother again. Now the teacher is a crane. Jiang Chan decided it was interesting. It looks like something else is happening in this school. Did the teacher become old, and he does not even imagine how cool he is? Jiang Chan asked where this place was. He thought that this villain dared to use the school territory to put pressure on him, but then let him be ready to be crushed. The red-haired one asked him to go to understand the toilets of the campus. He asked him not to pretend to be some kind of minor. And he asked me to admit that he was scared. Jiang Chan asked him to just bring him there. Jokai showed the class and said that while he would repent in front of him of his grandfather, he would think about forgiving his family. The boy told the kid that he does not even imagine who he was trying to cross the road. Jokai thought that he would still show him. Does he think he is so awesome? He will see that he will wait for him in the toilet, and he better not to contact him. Jiang Cheng exclaimed that he doesn't care, and he still has 2 minutes before the next lesson. And here we have a public toilet at the hostel. The guys were already approaching this toilet. A whole crowd gathered there near him. The guy became interested in his brother, whether this is the teacher who humiliated him today. Jiang Chung is very surprised and exclaimed that this was the brother of Hao. What a coincidence. The second asked, by accident, this is not the boy whom they met this morning. The guy asked whether this teacher asked. Jiang Chan asked Hao, should he not be at home escaping from the troubles of which he told him. Then the guy asked if he was going to lie in his eyes, or he thinks that he is so stupid. This is all his fault, and since he is guilty of this, how he is going to compensate him for the repair of the machine. It was his uncle's favorite car. He spent more than $3 million on its repair. Then the teacher asked the guy how much he needed and did not deign to escort him. He said no problem. Hao asked if he could pay and is probably afraid. These are as many as $3 million, not $300. Hao asked the boy to return to him the amount that he demanded and did not need to play with him. Otherwise, he will definitely kill him. Jiang Chan told brother Hao that he was injuring him with these words, and he does not even know what he was mistaken in. Previously, he just wanted to boast of a girl, make an idea from his appearance. He really was not going to provoke it or something in that spirit. Hao said that he was more fingered when he made his laughingstock from him. And where is all this courage when he now behaves like a coward? It turns out that he is just a spineless coward. Jiang Chung waved his hand and said that he would pass after a young master. Then the guy answered him what he thinks this time, forgive him. Jiang Chan smiled in a malicious smile and began to go to the door. The boy went to the door and began to pull her by the handle. Hao already wanted to open the door, but Jiang Chan turned out to be behind him and put his hand on his shoulder. Hao asked if he was stupid. After all, this is in front of them the entrance to the toilet. Zhang Chung said that it is. He said so that the guy would go inside soon. He pushed Hao with his foot and he fell directly on the toilet with his head. He grabbed his hands for him. Jokai asked the guy how he dared to do so. He gave the team the rest of the guys take him. Then the guys immediately began to run to the guy with the beaten, who simply clenched his fists. Zhang Chan was preparing for the next attack in his direction and moved his eyebrows to his nose. The guys flew into him in a crowd, but the guy began to throw them in different directions. Hao sat near the toilet and called this abnormal teacher in different words. He clenched his teeth and said that he would kill this villain. The guy began to open the door of the toilet and calling him asked to appear and let him beat him. But when the boy opened the door and saw a picture in front of him, it was covered with a drop of sweat. Jiang Cheng continued to throw the guys in different directions, hitting them with his fist and legs. Hao was shocked and could not understand how this is possible and who he was. Is this guy just broke a whole crowd of his guys and did not even get hurt? Jiang Cheng threw an evil look at him. Hao was frightened and asked him not to approach him. He warns him because Jiang Chan knows who he is. He is the heir to the Fanishi group. The boy exclaimed that he loves new acquaintances and asked to forget him about it. Hao asked the guy not to soar. He is a master, and he asked to forgive him. Perhaps he is interested in joining the Fanishi group. He again apologized for insulting him earlier. Zhang Chung replied that he was not interested and he likes to be a teacher and teach people being free. He said Hao Xiao that he could believe that his debt was paid in full. Meanwhile, Zhou Kai fell to his knees and wailed in pain. He said that he thought to throw away the skates. The guy grabbed his head with his hand and howled with fear and horror. He glanced at Zhang Chan. The guys were just reconciled. Zhou Kai asked the older brother why he apologized to him. Hao turned towards the red-haired one and asked him to shut up immediately. He asked to shut his mittens until he himself slammed it. Zhou Kai immediately moved back, frightened even more. The guy asked him not to worry, because such a wonderful guy as Jiang Xiao would definitely not be lost. If he has problems in the future, then he asked to call him to help. Hao promised to help him with what he could. Meanwhile, the first call from the lesson rang. Jiangcheng thought that he had a window in the next lesson. He began to leave the office and decided to go to the teacher's room in order to relax a bit. He did not have time to get out of the class as his foot on the pen that was lying on the floor. He could not understand what it was. Near him, someone appeared and asked for forgiveness. A girl stood nearby and she exclaimed that it was her favorite pen. She asked if he did it on purpose. The boy apologized and said that it was an accident. Then she asked if he apologized as he compensates for this loss to her. Zhang Chung asked how he would buy her another pen after classes, whether this option would suit. The girl replied that it's okay because it was just a pen. He really should not worry too much because of this. Nevertheless, he said that he had broken her, therefore in any case he had to pay for her. He was very strange because it was just an ordinary old pen and how she could be her beloved. Surely she hides something from him. Zhang Chung asked if it was important or not to her, but still why this pen is her beloved. He said that Zhang Chung and he was a new physical education teacher to call him. The boy said that she was still not introduced. Then the girl said that her name is Zhu Xian. She is a Thai teacher. The teacher explained that she had seen from afar that he had some kind of bike with students. Whether she says correctly, Zhu Xian laughed and said that it was very funny. Jiang Chung said that students are the future of the crowd of their country in the future. He simply taught them a little discipline and control his emotions. The teacher asked how the current students will be able to follow such a tough logic. Each of them is a small emperor and princess, and not a single student can accept such a logic. Zhu Xian said that judging by the fact that he saw these kids simply pour and dangled in the lessons, he does not think that they seriously reacted to her instructions. He asked where she bought this pen. The girl said that this store is very far from here and asked if he had a car or they would go there by taxi. 20 minutes have passed now. Huge high-rise buildings towered to the sky itself. The girl showed the boy a store and they went inside. Zhu Xian laughed while walking along the corridor. She went to the counter and said that she wanted this particular pen. The seller told the mistress that she had such a talent in recognizing a true quality. This is an inlaid handle in precious stones from Swarovski. It is also framed by gold spray, and an African diamond is installed on the mount. The seller asked if she wanted to buy this pen. How will it be calculated in cash or credit card? Zhu Xian replied that this gentleman would pay behind. She asked to turn to him, but the boy said that he would say no. Zhang Chung glanced at the girl and confidently said not. Zhu Xian was very surprised and asked in what sense and what he had in mind. Then the boy looked at her eyes menacingly and asked which part of no she did not understand. The pen that he broke was definitely not inlaid with diamonds. It was an ordinary ballpoint pen, and did she not appreciate it because she was just a road for her? The pen that he broke is not worth $5. The girl exclaimed that it was her favorite pen. Jiang Chung asked not to behave like a little girl and to grow up already. Does she understand who she says to? He is not her boyfriend. Apparently she did not understand something. Does he really think that she can inflate him so easily, and he advised her to think about the consequences? Zhu Xianxian exclaimed that after that he dares to call himself a man, as if he is so sorry to spend some money. The boy said that she was a typical Chinese girl and very disappointed him. All of them are such materialists. Then the girl was very upset and blushing, his teeth blushing. She suddenly grabbed his hand and asked who allowed him to leave. Then the boy turned his head in her direction and threw a terrible look at her. He asked how she dared. Zhu Xianxian covered her mouth with her mouth a little scared. She did not expect him to pull his hand. The girl fell to her knees and began to look after him with a very evil, frustrated look. The seller turned out to be behind him and asked the lady what about the pen. The girl was very angry and exclaimed that there would be no deal. Zhang Cheng said that he hates such people and there is no money, but they want to buy something. They even reach to fool young men, and it is very regrettable how low modern women fell. Would go on dismissal from the armed forces. To meet such women is generally damn luck. Apparently he cannot find peace. The boy decided that the lunch break is terribly quiet. One of the guys asked the other to defend themselves and get into defense. The second asked someone to interfere with him. After all, he is going to get into the ring. Zhang Cheng watched what was happening, and the guy just threw the ball into the basket. He boldly hit the ball into the basket. The guys were delighted with his luck and approached him. One of them exclaimed that he had just a great hit. Well played, the brother of Nude Tong. Jiang Chan called this guy and asked him if he joined them. He asked what enthusiasm was just like that and how about a real test. Nude Tun noticed that this is Mr. Jiang Chan's teacher, and he said that of course, and why not play? The guys asked the teacher who knows how to play. Not that he doubted his skills. Zhang Chung asked the kids will play. There are 5 of them against them 4. He asked the teacher as if they were putting his 2 strong players to his team. Will it be so honest enough? Zhang Chung replied that of course he would be with them in the game. Cope by the 4 against them 5. The students of the student exclaimed that they could be judges. Zhang Chung asked to wait. The boy asked the girl to hold the wallet and the phone. She immediately agreed. And now the teacher began to approach the guys in order to fight in the match. The team of Tishiashi against the team Jiang Chan. And then they announced the advance of the battle. The guys became opposite each other and decided to start this game. And before the start of the fight, there was another minute. Nude Toon approached his enemy. The guys around asked to stop Mr. Jiang Chan and prevent him from winning. The teacher made a false attack and went around it. The boy decided that it was just incredible. The guys watched the game and exclaimed that the teacher Jiang jumped, and it was just an incredible jump. He reached his hands to the basket and he was called the Heavenly God and slam dank. Nude Tun was very surprised because they really lost in the match 4-5. And this is really just incredible. The guys could not understand who this teacher is. Jiang Chan asked the kids to be tired of whether they were tired. He said that they should train more if they want to get to the regional tournament. He has a great talent in basketball and he can be proud of it. The boy asked to call him if there would be additional classes and laughed. Nude Tong called him a huge upstart. Of course he will call him and teach him a lesson next time. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, he decided to do it. And then at night, in a small house, the light in the room of Jiang Chan was shocked. The teacher decided to take a shower after physical education. He is very refreshing. He realized that the match was good and the guy has potential. It was really fun. Not to compare with the battlefield, but still. He thought that it was already midnight, and to whom it was impatient to call at such a late hour. He held the phone in his hand and noticed that an unknown number was calling. Someone is clearly careful, but he doesn't care. Jiang Chung decided to just pick up the phone and see who it was. He answered the call. Jiang Chung realized that this is the girl that was near the basketball court. He could not understand why she was calling him. She probably got into some trouble. He asked her why she called so late at night. The girl asked to help them. She asked to save them because they did not know what to do. They are somewhere in an institution called the Black Ball, and here it is very dark and scary. She began to explain that they came very late. Unexpectedly, the connection broke off. The boy decided that the matter was very bad and rather ran to the taxi car. Before he had time to get closer to the car, he opened the door and asked their driver to start the car. He asked him to take him to a black bar, and the faster the better. His kids were in trouble. and the driver rushed off that there was urine to this black bar. He could not understand where the girls were. Jung Chung did not let the phone out of his hands. The boy peered for a long time in front of him and finally found his students. Opposite him at the table, students were sitting. There was a lot of food and drink on the table. The teacher began to come closer to his students and saw Fiona in front of him. He was very surprised and could not understand what she was doing here. Jiang Chan began to approach the guys. The girl who was sitting near one guy was very sad. Tears flowed from her eyes and she was a little red. The girl glanced at the guy. She told the teacher Jiang that he had finally came to them, rejoiced at this. The guys got up and one of them asked who he was. The other asked who he stared at and whether he was looking for problems. The teacher told the guys that the girls who are sitting with them are his students. He asked them to leave until he got angry. The boy explained that he arrived here in order to pick them up and send them home. He asked the bandits whether they understood him. One of them with a gold chain on his neck asked who he even imagined himself and began to approach him closer. Jiang Chan again explained that he had already told them that he was their teacher. He asked if he was deaf. Does he not see that they are scared? He asked to let them go home, and in general, what they have fun here with minor girls. The boy exclaimed that he was taking them right now. But one of the bandits asked him to shut up because he was a boss here, and will be as he would say. And he is so quick and thinks that he can talk so easily and brazenly. The boy asked Hao Weiwei what was happening here. The girl replied that these people made her drink alcohol, but she really did not want to do this. She will never drink in the future, but now she was not going to touch alcohol. The guys did it all, and they want to make her drink all this. Jiang Cheng decided that these guys are completely crazy. They even make girls drink alcohol. The boy asked one of the guys who he was. Then the guy replied that his name was Xinhu, and he asked how he thinks to resolve this situation. Jiang Cheng replied that since they were under his care, he would take responsibility for them. As their teacher, he has obligations to them. Then the bandit replied that since he had already come for him, he would not walk around the bush. He pointed to a dozen bottles that stood on the table and said that he wanted him to drink them. Jiang Cheng glanced at the table and considered 24 bottles of beer. He only laughed in response. Then the guy said that he had cranes. He asked if he was thinking that such a strong nut and asked to drink until he was stiff. He asked to see how this fool would ruin his own liver, and in no case to let them go until he drinks everything. Then the boy asked these bandits not to soar if he would enjoy this beer himself. So he started. Jiang Cheng began to drink a glass in a glass, and the guys thought about who he was at all. One of them said that the guy drank 4 glasses in one sitting. These are already 2 bottles. The girls remained, counting one after another, and now 10 bottles were already drunk. One of the students asked if everything would be in order with the teacher if he drinks so much, and now the 14th bottle has already gone. The bandits were shocked that he was still continuing to drink. But what is wrong and why she stopped him? The girl asked to stop mocking him and said, but she would drink the rest for him. But the boss said that he would not work, and he wants the guy to drink everything himself. Then he asked Mr. Teacher whether he wanted her to drink the remaining bottles for him. Jiang Chan answered boss that he drank and he needs to cast. He asked where the toilet was. The boy headed towards the door to where the toilet was. Suddenly he noticed something and heard. His gaze changed and was intoxicated. He looked towards Fiona and noticed that she was completely in the insole. But the girl asked to give her more beer. She explained she can still drink. Jiang Chan approached Hao Weiwei and asked if she could take care of this girl. Meanwhile, the boss, looking at him, said that he promised him to drink all this booze well, and what was waiting for him now. Or he was already drilled. The guy asked to return to the promised and finish the rest of the bottles. Jiang Cheng decided that this civilian was too experiencing him. So far, he still restrains himself, and it would be better if this guy has not experienced his luck. The boy began to approach the next glass and already brought him to his mouth. He drank a lot of bottles in a row and only managed to put the glasses empty on the table. Then the boss looked into his eyes and asked how to call him. He was simply shocked by what was happening. The kid in response looked into his eyes and said that his name was Jiang Chan. The boss held out his hand to him and asked if he was a soldier. So only the soldiers drink. He explained Jiang Chan that he was from the 8th Military Division. Here you can easily meet a brother in arms. Xinyu said, shaking his hand to the guy, that he had earned a place here. They take care of each other in arms, and he asked to go to him at any time. The whole drink will be at his expense. The guy asked to call a taxi and go straight home. He will take care of everything. The main thing is that they get home intact. Jiang Chan agreed and asked more to go to the car. The student thanked the teacher for saving them. Meanwhile, the girl who helped him with a drink stood near the fence, dropping her head down. Jiang Cheng became interested in Li. Fiona replied that she was in order. The boy asked her to be careful, but she had already stepped on some thorn. The boy exclaimed, looking at the bloodied leg, that the matter was bad. This nail could be rusty, so he will take it to the hospital. The girl asked to just send her home, and she would take care of herself. Jiang Chung said that she needs to go to the doctor, and it is better to get to the appointment, or the infection in the wound will spread. He took her in his arms and said that she was simply obliged to get to the reception, and if she doesn't want to go, she still can't do anything, and he would take her there right in her arms. Fiona said that she hates injections and did not want to go to the hospital. She asked to let her go and called him an unsteadied fool. She does not want to go to the hospital and asked to let her go. Fiona explained that she was afraid of syringes since childhood, so she was still afraid of them. Therefore, she asked to let her go. But the boy asked her to stop whining as they had already come. He told her to immediately enter the office. Jiang Chan threatened to count to 3 if she does not go inside, then he pushes her there by force. The girl began to close her eyes and cry that she hates injections. Suddenly, the boy looked at the door and began to approach her faster. Then he put his leg forward and pushed this door with his foot that there was strength. The door immediately opened and he took the girl by the scruff of the scruff to drag into the corridor. He asked her to stop behaving like a child. Jiang Cheng told the nurse that this girl needs a tetanus injection. She injured a large rusty nail and she definitely needs it. Fiona began to cry stronger and talk about that she was really afraid of syringes. He asked her to calm down because there was nothing to be afraid of. She asked what he grabbed her. Fiona cannot move because of him. The boy told the nurse that she could prepare an injection. The girl was already typing him in a syringe, and now she had already prepared to make an injection to the girl. Fiona began to scream throughout the hospital in pain. There was already night outside, and the moon illuminated everything around. Jiang Chung told Fiona that since it was too late, then let him stay with him for the night. He asked not to worry since he has another room. The girl replied that there was nothing to do and it looks like the keys went somewhere. She apologized for bringing him so many problems. He showed where the bathroom is located. He asked to immediately rinse his wound. Jiang Chung explained that he would leave the first aid kit and go find the clothes to change clothes. The boy told Fiona that things would be on the bed and asked if she understood. The girl replied that she understood. Jiang Chan immediately said goodbye until tomorrow and went. Fiona did not expect that he was such a gentleman. Such guys are very rare now. And then the next day came. The morning was sunny and the sky is blue. The girl slept and enjoyed a beautiful day. Then she heard something. When she left the room, she noticed her things hung on the wire. The girl noticed that he washed even her underwear. It's just a shame. She thought that for the first time in her life, a man washed her things, even her underwear. Jiang Chan asked Fiona to wake up and sing because it was already morning and it's time to have breakfast. When he was dressed up, he asked her to go down. The girl replied that of course she would do so, and soon she would come to the kitchen. Suddenly, the student faced him, and when she saw Fiona, she asked what she was doing here. She was very surprised and asked her brother to answer. She looked into his eyes and asked to answer what she was doing here. Jiang Chung asked to stay quieter and explained that she had lost her keys and was a late night, and she got hurt. So he brought her to stay here for the night, and there was nothing. The boy apologized to Fiona and explained that it was his sister Jiang Jianggu. Jiang Jianggu invited her to come to eat with them. I asked to sit down at the table and said it very rudely. Jiang Chan told her not to pronounce this. Then he apologized and said that she was not yet very at the wretches with English. The girl asked if she could eat such food. She said that these were not local dishes and apologized for it, not knowing if such food is suitable for her diet. Fiona replied that she looked great and decided to try. Jiang Jianggu told Fiona that although her brother does not look like that, he cooks very well and she should try. The boy replied that it was nonsense and let him already eat and stop chatting. Since food is so tasty, why she doesn't eat vegetables then? The girl said that this is just an incredible job. Madam Fiona is one of the 4 beauties of the school, and this must be told about this, but to whom? She just needs money for pocket expenses. Then she decided to tell Dad and Grandfather about it and laughed. Fiona thanked for the washing, a little blushing. Jiang Chan replied that he just thought that she would have nothing to wear tomorrow and washed for her. The girl was very surprised because a man who is engaged in washing, he really exists. Such a rare frame that it even fascinates. The boy apologized and said that he was not local, so he was used to such things. He asked for forgiveness if he drives her into the paint that the man washed her things. Fiona replied that everything was in order, and this is even somehow cute. She began to say goodbye to the teacher and said that she needed to go to school. She thanked the guy again for everything. Jiang Chan, too, waved in response to her and asked not to rush and be more careful. Meanwhile, the demon called him. The emperor returned. He asked the demon how to do it because he was so lively. They decided to meet with the local diner and congratulated him on the return. He explained that everyone was already gathering and he should also come. Jiang Chung listened to the guy and began to move to where they agreed to meet. He struck his comrade and very carefully approached him from behind. After that, he touched him with his finger right on his back. Thus, he wanted to say hello to him. Jiang Chan approached this young man and asked him to listen to what he would say differently with his life. Then the guy answered him that this was too rude, and whether he really decided to kill him. He turned in his direction and said that he had not seen each other for a long time. Jiang Chung exclaimed that he had the same vulnerable places and laughed. A friend replied that he was at least not as raised as Sven. He told the emperor that they had not seen each other for a long time. The boy smiled maliciously and said that, in comparison with him, he still has something to study and called him an amateur. He decided to remove his friend's hand with his own and do it with one clever and bold technique. The guy did not expect this and grimaced in a grimace. Jiang Chung showed how to defend himself and made him a reception. A friend exclaimed that he was painful and asked to do this here. He is still the same child. Jiang Cheng asked him to stop yelling, and it was better to go to the table. He told the guy when they were already sitting at the table that he heard that he resigned from a special forces. How was he able to do so? The boy asked him to eat and drink at last, enjoy food. He asked why he was so funny and why such a joy. Jiang Cheng explained that his old man was a break from the army. Like because he has the only heir in the family, and now he needs to find his wife. He ordered to marry someone from school and gave him all about all 3 years. A friend laughed and said that he was now not life, but a dating simulator. After all, this is a very difficult task, and he will not lie about it. He asked Jiang Chan how his sister and he himself, whether he was acclimatized with his family. Jiang Chung replied that he was not yet very. He cannot get used to the local order. For too long I was behind the hill, and this is greatly changing, and he slowly studies everything and teaches at the school of his stepmons. A friend laughed and asked if he was really a teacher now, but this is very cool, and he says it without jokes. The boy replied that it is, and he is a physical education teacher. This is a very good position, and a bunch of free time, actually. He asked that he himself would tell you whether it was interesting. The guy replied that he was like him. Father called and said to do the family business. If he refuses, then he will deprive him of all the money, and thinks that it would be easier for him to remain a doctor in the research institute. He somehow does not really want to talk about it. Everything is difficult. Jiang Chan asked if he finds his work, if he would take him for her. A friend answered, of course, and if there is a normal salary, a place where to live will take immediately. Jiang Chan answered the demon that they just had a free vacancy for the doctor at school, and he will inform his stepmother. But he should be a qualified specialist in this matter. He asked if he had money with money. The demon replied that there really is, and everything is very bad for him to need $180,000 and as soon as possible. Jiang Chung went to his parents and asked his father if he could help him with something. Then the father replied that it was rarely possible to hear this about help. He asked his son to tell what he needed. The boy began to explain that Sun Wei, his childhood friend, he must be aware that he is a doctor in the research institute. He thought here that they just did not have enough doctor in the school medical center, and asks for help helping to arrange him to work. He asked his parents what they would say to it. The mother replied that it was very good, and asked to inform him to arrive at school and write an application for employment. The boy immediately replied that in this case he would give him that they agree. But the father suddenly coughed. He glanced at his son and said that he had heard that he was walking with Fiona. He asked when the child would be and exclaimed, he wants his grandchildren. Jiang Chung could not understand how he found out about it. The sister should have been told, but he did not think that she would give him so quickly. The papa does not have common sense at all not to understand. The boy asked his father where he heard this at all and said that there was no need to listen to all sorts of rumors. He only a couple of days ago left the army to the reserve, when he only had time to meet a girl. Father asked him to shut up, and he said that Nefig is to take off here. He knows Father Sun Wei, and they have been familiar with each other for a long time. If their family accepts Sun Wei under his wing, you will have to reckon with his father. The boy asked to say then what he wants and be closer to business. Father said that he did not know what kind of relationship with Fiona was at the moment, but he wants him to marry her in a month. Jiang Chung decided that his friend should be more than these 180,000. He will make him pay his whole life. Before us is a sports field of physical education class. There were people on the path. The students were very tired and asked how many more circles they flee. Jiang Chung replied that only the fifth circle and he was still very kind. They thought to relax during physical education. If they don't like something, then there will be another 10 circles. One of the students invited the other guys to dump differently here on the field. Then the teacher crossed his arms over his chest and exclaimed that the shallow had planned the escape plan. He was interested in where they decided to dump it. One of the students replied that he was not going to run. Then the teacher hit him with his foot on his thigh, and he flew to the ground. The guy was very angry and exclaimed that this was already a beating of students. But the teacher made him run 5 more. The rest of the guys said that the teacher Jiang Chan is really so cruel. The second asked him to be quieter, otherwise they would not get problems if he hears them. The boy said that since he was rang the bell, he would let them go this time. One of them exclaimed in the back that he was not a fig to Mr. Jiang, or rather his monster Jiang would call him. The rest of the guys agreed with him. The boy asked his friend how everything passed and whether it was fine on the first working day. The demon corrected his glasses and said that it's not bad, and the food here is very worthy. Then he showed the class with a finger and said that all these cuties had made the day even sweeter. Jiang Chung exclaimed that this is very good. What he likes, let him remember that he still owes him now. The demon replied that he knows and never forget his kindness. The boy said that he did not even know what kind of victims he had to make. I decided that I had to visit Fiona because time is money. Jiang Chung told his friend that he needs to go because he has business. The demon asked how it is already leaving because he was still not entertained enough. The boy answered the demon that when he would get bored, then they would play. Jiang Chan, meanwhile, had already come to school and tried to remember where Fiona's office was. It seems to be on the 2nd floor. The girl just went down the steps and he decided that it was probably fate. She saw the guy asked what he was doing here. Jiang Chung began to scratch his nape. Looking at her, he said that he wanted to invite her to dinner. Therefore, she wanted to ask whether she was free. Fiona replied that she should thank him, asked for allowing him to treat him. Jiang Chung could not understand how a girl could pay at the expense. He asked again free whether she was free tonight. Fiona replied that she was free. She explained that she has a lesson now and they would see herself in the evening. Jiang Chung decided that the girl was quite beautiful. Since they will go to dinner, then there will be an opportunity to make sure that they fit each other. The boy thought that if they are suitable, they could gradually improve their relationship. Suddenly, someone told him, or rather asked to come to the director soon. Jiang Chung began to knock on the door and the director told the guy to go into the office. One of Jiang Chan's students showed his father this teacher who beat him. Father asked who gave him the right to do this with his son. The director asked Mr. Jiang Chan to explain. She was waiting for an answer from the guy. Then Jiang Chan approached this disciple to this and asked if he said that he had beaten him. Taking him by the scruff, he asked to tell them how he tore his physical education lessons. But unexpectedly, the father of this guy took his hand and asked to remove his hands from his son. He squeezed the teacher's hand in one movement, but he immediately made him a reception. The man was very surprised and asked what kind of teacher he was and how he dares to behave with his son right in front of him in such an impudent way. He exclaimed that it was better to answer at school for such things and dismiss this insignificant teacher. Teachers like him are black sheep for such prestigious schools as this. The director approached the master and asked him to calm down. She said that they would see what could be done. But the man began to shout that they were trying to evade responsibility and how to be such a teacher at all. Jiang Chung glanced at this man and decided that this dad is some kind of restless. How he hates such noisy people like this man. The guy went to him from behind and decided to take a reception again. He picked up his fist by squeezing him as much as possible over the head of this restless man. Jiang Chung approached the table with this fist and the wooden table broke in half. Jiang Chung told his father that this is his student, and if he beat his students, his son would not stand here now. The boy began to approach the door and peep on her. The guy who watched from the side thought that it was very cool and he was Ma Xiaodun, now his fan. Meanwhile, there was already night outside. In a cafe nearby, people at the table were sitting. Jiang Chung decided that since Fiona is a foreigner, he thinks that a restaurant in Western cuisine is best suited. He was heading towards the restaurant in a beautiful suit in anticipation of his companion. A couple came out of this cafe. The guy talked with his girlfriend or acquaintance and suddenly she slipped. The girl began to fall. In her way was Jiang Chen, who immediately picked her up. Then the girl turned in his direction and asked what was wrong with him and what he had invented. She went to her boyfriend and asked only to look at him. He told her he is not angry and not to waste time on people like him. Jiang Chung decided that it was better to forget about them and not to arrange a showdown right on the road. If they start to bark now, then obviously you can't unhook them for a long time. The boy was already going to the restaurant. He glanced at this couple and thought that they also decided to have dinner here. And then Fiona appeared in front of him. She changed for making him wait. And she began to order a fried steak with vanilla sauce. And the boy ordered the same thing only with ketchup. Fiona asked if he loved ketchup. Zhang Chen asked if she thinks that his skin color will look better if he will eat with black pepper sauce. The girl replied that now, when he said about it, she thinks this would suit him quite. Fiona accidentally knocked over a glass of wine with an elbow. The glass flew right to the floor and crashed with a ringing, pouring the wine around. The guy from the next table immediately cast his gaze in their direction, turning to this ringing. He was tired from the table and slowly began to approach them. The guy waved his hand to Fiona and said that they had not seen each other for a long time. He asked her business. The boy was very surprised and asked if she knew him. The guy looked at him and said that he was Robert, a former Fiona. Jiang Cheng said in response that he does not really like to find out about the people who are worth attention. Robert in this case suggested talking about Fiona. Without makeup, she is terrible and very stupid. Didn't she just break the glass? Jiang Cheng asked Robert, did he like it? If he liked someone, he liked despite all the shortcomings. The boy squeezed his teeth and exclaimed that he would better shut up, and to learn the manners at least a little. Robert was also angry and asked who he was. He said that he had no place here. Jiang Cheng threw an evil, despicable look at him, and with one blow of his fist broke the table of half. Fiona watched what was happening and thought about what would happen next. Robert did not expect this and looked in surprise at his opponent. Jiang Chan apologized for the fact that he was a little angry and could not restrain himself. He explained that if this blow hit a person, then he would now be dead or death. The boy took the girl's hand and dragged him from this restaurant to the exit. And they were already on the street and holding hands walked along a beautiful alley. Jiang Cheng asked the girl what she found in this moron. Fiona asked in response to restraining her tears, did she really look like a fool then in a restaurant? Jiang Cheng replied that of course not. She knew that he was a villain and why now sad because of him. But he did not think that her former could be such a freak. The boy asked if he looked like a moron. Fiona asked what he was talking about. Jiang Cheng added that the morons are still those freaks, and he is all such beauties. The boy laughed and asked the girl how to cry when such a handsome man next to her. Fiona looked into his eyes and called a daffodil. They began to walk on the street further. Jiang Chen told the girl that she is much more beautiful when she smiles. He asked to go with him and promised to spend her home. The guys were already approaching the house and said goodbye to each other. And then, the next day came. Jiang Chan thought that the cabinet that the stepmother gave him is very good. At least he does not have to share him with this gold minister. The boy thought that one of the four goddesses, Tianaya, Hu Jinwan, is in this teacher. Yes, and she likes him and they have a lot in common. For example, they think that students are now too relaxed. Jiang Cheng turned his head towards the teacher and asked if the disciples were not bored. The girl answered saying that they were listening to the floor of the ear as usual. She just burned a couple for an attempt to play on the network. I sent them to run a couple of laps to the sports ground, although she does not think that this will help. Jiang Chan answered, then these are still those bastards, and only think about toys. The teacher told the guy that his turn is to engage in a routine check in the evening. Then the boy asked, really, she was talking about duty. He asked what they are usually doing there. The teacher explained that they check the hostel so that the children do not smoke, do not drink, do not play gambling, and so on. She asked him to be here at 10 in the evening. The boys are generally violent and he should be careful. They are very cruel in their draws. Jiang Chan asked how they dared to play teachers. She heard that someone used a bucket of water, someone super cully, and one person could not plan it in such a way that even if he threatened them with a deduction, this would not solve the problem. Jiang Cheng replied that since they did not care about the threat of deductions, then these bastards should be taught a lesson in order to begin to obey. The guy slowly headed for the hostel and began to climb the steps to the main door. After that, he was already approaching the 5th floor and thought that they were behaving quite well. But suddenly something flew in his direction and a loud laughter came from the doors. Jiang Chan changed his opinion and decided that these biases had something too much energy for evening time. In front of him was the door at number 510. A plate was prohibited above it. The boy began to approach this door and grabbed his hand by the handle. He stopped hearing something near himself. It was some strange sound. A basin of water flew to the floor, rapidly falling down. Jiang Cheng dodged in time and the water did not hit him and the basin fell turned over to the floor. Next to him were the guys who asked if he had dodged their tricks. The boy called the ship a well done and asked who dared to make fun of him. But they did not answer the question and the leader of the guys gave the rest to throw the rest at him. The guys began to throw some balls towards the guy. Jiang Chan managed to catch one of them with a deft movement. He only managed to dodge, and one of the inflatable balls of water was again in his hand. The boy asked if they thought that they could play with him, and he considered it too naive. The guy who muddied it all asked what it was now and whether he was a man in general. Jiang Chan shouted in response that they were too weak, and it seems to him to teach them a lesson in good manners. He gave the command to the guys, all immediately gather. Since they are full of energy, then he asked them to play something else. 500 squats must be done right now. The first who finish will go to bed. The guys were shocked by such a large number of push-ups and fell together on the floor. Some of them were already falling and could not be fatigued. When they finished squeezing their mane, told the guys to go to the bunks to everyone. Jiang Chan, throwing his gaze at one of the boys, asked to wait. He asked what was with his face. The guy in glasses grabbed his hand by the cheek and, lowering his head down, answered that nothing. Jiang Cheng thought that someone looked like him. Immediately, he does not want to say what he himself finds out. The boy told the guys that he would be on duty all week, so that it is better for them to behave well. And now he gave the command to go to bed, everyone. If tomorrow they will be late for classes, he will not be so easy for them. The next morning, the teacher asked Jiang Chan how the night passed. She asked whether all these kids were sneaked. The boy, holding his chin, answered that this was for sure. But only a few people, and they cannot conduct it. The girl said that it was not bad, and it seems to him really capable of cope with these kids. They mocked many teachers, and this is just some kind of gathering of small monsters. Jiang Qing asked if he could ask a question. If the students are mocking, if he will tell the teachers about this. The girl replied that, of course not. If the student tries to take advantage of the teacher's help, then he will definitely then be even more stolen. The whole week has passed. The night came again, the light in the hostel burned in full. One of the guys told Mr. Jiang that today he has the last day of duty, and he must be very tired. Jiang Chan replied that if he knows that he was tired, he advised him to go to the beds to go quickly. Although this is the last day of duty, let them not think that he cannot cope with them because of this. He called these guys a meal. The guy held some remedy in his hands and said that since it was necessary to provide a farewell gift to Mr. Jiang, they together put the bottles with some substance forward, stretching their hands. They began to press the dispenser, and an incomprehensible tool began to fly out of these bottles. The guys lined up next to each other and began to press the bottles of flooding liquid. Jiang Chan dodged and jumped over the guys' heads. He only dodged these guys very deftly and skillfully. The boy put his hands forward and grabbed the bottle from one of the students with a lightning-fast movement. He took this bottle and approached the guy with him. Jiang Chung pressed his flooding liquid. The guys began to scream, being shocked by such a turn of events. One of them exclaimed, turning to Mr. Jian, that it was very rude. The boy suddenly smelled blood. He could not understand why suddenly smells of blood. Several guys took out a guy with glasses in their arms and told Mr. Jian that here the student tried to commit suicide. Then the boy rushed to the boy with lightning speed and asked him to carry him here. He picked up this guy, in the hands of this guy that he cut his veins in his arms. Jiang Chan brought the guy to the infirmary. He called Dr. Sun Wei. The guy explained that he had a student with cut veins here and needs his immediate help. They laid the boy on the hospital bed. Sun Wei said that everything was in order and asked them to stay outside. Jiang Chan went out the door and, pressing his students to the wall, asked them to tell what the hell was going on here. The guys were covered with streams of sweat, and each looked down without even looking into the eyes of the teacher. Then the boy asked if they were deafened or did not understand what he said. He asked to listen more carefully now. He decided to give them the last chance. One of the guys told Mr. to the teacher that they really sorry. They did not think that this would happen, and it was just a joke. Jiang Chan thought to himself that if it was a joke, then a bespectacled man would not cut his veins. The student answered the teacher that they really did not want anything serious, and even more so did not think that everything could end with this. Jiang Chan told 3 to go down in a semi-prison and stand in the pose of the rider until he would tell the hut up. In the hospital, the light was burning, and the guy was saved by the doctor. An hour and a half has passed. Sun Wei opened the door and told Jiang Chan that he was now in order and will soon come across. The guy asked why he did not send him to the hospital, given his critical condition. Jiang Chan replied that the hospital was too far, and his skills are an order of magnitude higher. Sun Wei said that he knew him well. Yes, and such an operation is a mere trifle for such an experienced surgeon like him. The boy replied that it was, and said that he would go to lead him. He asked to see so far for these 3 assholes. And, throwing his gaze at the guys who stood in a semi, Squirrel gave the command to continue to stand. Jiang Chan began to enter the ward where a boy with glasses with bandaged hands lay. He began to come to his senses and slowly opening his eyes in front of him. The boy asked whether in heaven could be an infirmary. Jiang Chen asked him what heaven he was talking about, for such salivates as he has no place in paradise. The boy recognized Mr. Jiang in front of him. He asked if he had saved him and why. He should leave him to die. The boy got angry and asked if he was thinking that death was a decision. Only a coward can commit suicide. If you want to die so much, then let it die. It can take off a bandage and die on such a mattress. Jiang Chen approached the boy and asked him to tell everything that happened to him. The boy replied that he had mocked him daily, and he could no longer endure it. They are all allowed because they are from wealthy families. Then the boy asked what a rag he was and said that because of this, he decided to commit suicide. But did he think what would his parents be? If he died, he would only become a laughingstock for the rest. If he does not want him to mock him, then it is necessary to become stronger. Then no one dares to touch it. He advised him to seriously think about it. When the boy went out the door, then asked the doctor whether they behaved well. The doctor replied that of course even the knees are shaking well. The guys told the teacher that they realize who acted very badly, and this will never happen again. Jiang Chung asked Li return to their conscience and why they didn't think about it when they mocked others. He said that they would go to sleep only after they would stand this way for another 3 hours and began to trace time. Sunwei advised the guys to behave well and hold on. If they will deliver problems again, then Jiang Chan has a whole bunch of punishments for them. And then an hour passed. One of the guys told the guy that they're really sorry and asked to let them go. But Jiang Chen replied that 3 hours and not a minute less. 2 more hours have passed. The guys stood in a semi-shower. And when the guy ended for 3 hours that the time had time and they could rest. The guys immediately fell to the floor half dead and could not even rise since their knees were shaking and their legs were sick. Jiang Chan told them that he hopes this no longer will happen again. The next time they are standing in a semi-shower for 3 hours. The teacher said that she heard that he was faced with the case of a suicide attempt during yesterday's duty. The boy replied that it was, and what they did from above. The girl explained that in the morning of the 3 guilty students, they decided to seriously punish, and the victim made the deepest apologies. But it so happened that they were at all that they could not even get up from their beds. It looks like someone has already punished them yesterday. Jiang Chan replied that it was so they have been behaving badly recently. They are brought up as small kings at home, but behind the walls of their home, another society, and no one will indulge here. While they were talking, the boy with glasses with bandaged hands went out the door and called Mr. Jiang. In the infirmary, light was burning throughout the corridor and in different wards where patients lay. Jiang Cheng asked the boy what happened. The boy fell to his knees. The boy asked what he was doing. The teacher smiled at him and asked to get up from his knees and calmly talk. She turned to the boy and asked that he had done with him yesterday, and that he was behaving so unusually. The boy, without getting up from his knees, began to ask Mr. Jiang Chan to take him as a student. He did not calm down, and exclaimed that he really wanted to learn everything from him. The boy spread his hands to the side and told the boy that a male bow is worth a lot. He cannot accept such a gift. Jiang Chan asked him to rise from his knees and talk normally. The boy answered the teacher that he would not get up from his knees if he does not take him to the disciples. Jiang Chung apologized to Miss the Universe, asked why it was laughing. There is actually a guy. The boy asked the girl to control herself. The teacher apologized for not being able to restrain herself. She considered that they both look very funny, as if a scene from a drama about knights. Their game is pretty funny. Jiang Chan asked the boy if he wants to be his student. He explained that he did not take anyone. Since he wants to learn from him, then there will be conditions and tests for him. The boy was delighted and asked, he still takes him as a student. When the boy asked him to get up from his knees and talk normally with him, he asked the boy to introduce himself to a start. Van Wenlun immediately stood up quietly and smiling squeezed his fists. Jiang Chan asked why he wants to be his student and why such a rush. The boy explained that he wants to become stronger. Then he will be able to put the 5th point to all those who mocked him. The teacher asked for forgiveness and said that it was somehow too much. Mr. Jiang is not the best goal whether he finds it. Jiang Chan asked him, really he wants to learn from him for revenge. He is overwhelmed with anger. Something he is not sure that he will at all listen to him. He must know that if everyone thought as well as he is now, the whole world would be mired in chaos. There are people who train every day. Whatever it would be worth it to simply support themselves in shape. The boy asked how he thinks who they were. These are soldiers and they are always ready to give all the sake of their country. So they train daily to be strong. Being a soldier is very prestigious and this is a great honor. If everyone trained for revenge, then it would not be safe anywhere. Does he think that order would have been preserved from this in the world? No, of course. Only one egoist would remain. But what does he think about those guys who mocked him? Van Winloon answered, Then they are garbage and shame of society. Then the boy said that if he is the same as they, then let him go and revenge them. But he is not at all like that, and why waste time on such garbage? He is confused and buries in the swamp of other people's opinions and criticism. He forgot about those to whom he is really dear. Does it not seem to him that living such a life is extremely exhausting? The boy answered Mr. Jiang that he now understood everything. He will not take his opinion, he will remain with his own. First of all, he should think about his relatives. It would be a shame for him to die like that. He wants to become stronger, but not for revenge, but for his own. Jiang Cheng explained to the boy that he would have to go through a test before he took him as a student. The test will be a run of 20 circles and 20 push-ups every morning. Van Wenloon thanked the teacher and asked him to bow. The teacher told the boy that he could go. The girl said that she had already come to the end of the ceremony of taking this guy to the students and smiled a little. Jiang Chen asked why she also looks at him or also wants to study with him. The boy explained that his temple is too small for such a beauty. What is being done? She immediately looked down and blushed a little. Jiang Chen raised his eyes to her and asked if she blushed. So it seems that he is right. The teacher exclaimed that this could not be and her face would never turn red. Apparently he has some abilities. Such a student as a simple spin like him is quite difficult to convince. But he succeeded in 2 accounts. He replied that he could easily cope with 3 students, such as Van Wenlun, because he is such a charm. The girl said that she had never seen anyone else before. He used to be in the army, therefore they teach him in this way. Once she was a big fan of the military guys. The boy answered the girl that she was smart and he was really in spacecraft. It was an auxiliary composition. So the teacher said. Jiang Cheng did not expect this and said that signalmen are not some storekeepers there. He worked with high-tech pieces, such as interception of signals, hacking, and all that. The girl took her head and said that she did not know about it. She asked in the missions of what kind he took part. Jiang Cheng explained that he was in special troops and was involved in dangerous missions. They went deep into the forest to arrange a raid on drug dealers and fell into enemy territory to seize their leaders. If not for his grandfather. The teacher looked at him and said that she did not know that he was such a delicious soldier. I asked if he was busy tomorrow night. If not, I should want to treat him with dinner. The girl asked what he was thinking about it. Jiang Chan honestly answered that he could not. The teacher was very surprised at such an answer. Then the boy laughed back. He asked how a gentleman from the 21st century he could not allow such a beauty as she treated him with dinner. He asked if she was free this weekend and said that dinner was from him. Jiang Chan asked the girl to tell him the answer. He has a weak heart, and he is afraid he will not stand it, especially not withstand refusal. The teacher replied that he had just refused her, and she still could not recover from this injury. How he is going to make amends. Jiang Cheng said that he thinks that as a man he could not let her spend money. He must do this. He did not refuse her, but simply invited her himself. The girl replied that it would not work as a steep one with her. She will not buy it for this. What kind of cliché? The boy did not expect such an answer and froze a little in place. But the teacher suddenly smiled and said that since he was so sincere, they would see 5 on Sunday. She usually does not agree to the invitation so easily since they are colleagues. She will give him a chance. Jiang Cheng said that in this case he takes her where he wishes and feeds him what he wants. And of course he will pay everything, but wants her to promise something. The girl asked what exactly. If this is something sane, then perhaps it will not mind. Jiang Cheng asked to put on a couple of black stockings on this day. He explained that the truth is hoping to see how it would look in black stockings. He asked not to disappoint him. And then the next bright sunny day came. Jiang Cheng walked along the corridor. The boy saw a girl in the corridor. He pushed her with his hand. Jiang Cheng pushed her away and she fell right on the floor. She asked who was there in front of her. Then she asked what was not so with him and asked not to stand with a pillar. Should he not help her after knocking her down? Jiang Cheng asked what kind of form it was. Is it a clown from the play? The boy explained that she was flying her. The girl asked what other clown and explained that it was a lady of worms. Jiang Chen began to help lift her from the floor and said that it was more like a suit from a boyfriend. The girl asked what he knew at all and asked to help her get up right away. The boy asked how she could wear something like that. She must adhere to the rules and not put on such nonsense. This is a teacher, and you do not need to rush around here. He asked to change into a normal school uniform. Then the girl asked how he thinks who she was, because she is not his student and he has no right to read her notations. Jiang Chan asked her not to run here in such a strange form. Does she really think that this is normal to talk so after she crashes into someone? When the girl looked into his eyes and asked how he dares to report her, the boy asked why he could not counter. She thought that he was a moron. He really took her as a student. She is the beauty of the number one among the four goddesses Tianai Zhao Mai Er. How he may not know her. She decided to play a little with him to let off steam. The girl asked the guy could he help her go back. She explained that she dislocated an ankle because she was very painful. She apologized to the master and said that it was her fault and no longer would dress like that. Jiang Cheng thought that this fall was not even serious and how she could damage her leg. The girl realized that he did not save up on it, but she decided to make him believe. Then she began to cry unexpectedly and told the master that her leg hurts very much. The boy thought that perhaps she really got hurt and approached her in order to look. Jiang Cheng said that she gave him the right leg. Or she hurt her too. Then the girl said that her left leg hurts. And then again, that is still right. The boy noticed that she was trying to play with him and decided to see what would happen next. Jiang Chan asked the girl to lean against the wall and stretch his leg so that he would straighten her. She said that it was better for him to take her to the school doctor so that they would take care. But the boy said that everything was in order. This is easy and he himself will cope. The girl asked to stop touching her. Her foot is very tickling and she asked to stop. Jiang Chung exclaimed that she turned her leg crash into him. He just helps her, and she can scream as much as she wants. All this is useless. Mayer said, looking into his eyes, that he had to take her to the first aid post. And in the end, he tried to straighten his leg himself and called him a huge bully. The girl began to approach the guy, holding out her hands directly to him. Sheng Qing no longer knew how he got off and set the block in front of him. He also put his hands forward and she began to approach faster and faster. When the girl approached, then his hands were right on her chest. It was embarrassed by both. Mei blushed and turned away from him, lowering her head down. The boy also blushed and, raising his hands up, thought that they were very soft. Mei was shocked and froze on the spot, not knowing how to recover. She again called the teacher a small bully. The girl got seriously angry after that. Mei asked how such a bully as he could become a teacher. Then the boy asked her to look back. If it crashed into the glass, it would have cut off with fragments. The girl immediately looked where he showed. Jiang Chan began to explain that he wanted to help, and he was treated like a bully. He called her heartless. Mei immediately thanked him for that. Jiang Chung said that this time she really turned her leg and asked if he was telling the truth. Mei lowered her head down and blushing that she was really true. She asked if he knew from the very beginning that she was not a student. Jiang Chung replied that of course he knew and named her by name. The boy thought that, as a soldier from special troops, he has a photographic memory. He looked and remembered the personal affairs of all female teachers. Mei got angry and called him a vile scoundrel. He knew that she was not a student, and still deceived her. To herself, she thought that this was not part of her plans, and he turned everything against her. Jiang Qing asked if she turned her leg and asked to be accobbled. He promised to take her to the first aid post. The girl replied that she herself would reach, and she did not need the help of such a villain as he is. But the boy said that they would go together and took her in his arms. He said that this time it would not be possible for her to decide otherwise, the Queen of Cripple. One of the guys behind him asked whether they saw. Something seems to happen in the conference of the hall. Just a bunch of hooligans, and who knows what they are plotting there. Jiang Chen asked how they managed to get inside, and what the guard was busy at the gate. Mei replied that the guard simply earns a living here. They will not dare to stop them. The boy asked Dr. Sun Wei to look at her ankle. It seems she dislocated her. The doctor replied that this was such an absurd injury. He could send her himself, and why he came to him. Jiang Chan replied that he did not care, but she did not trust him because he did not have a doctor's license. Since he is a doctor, more reliable. The boy said that he leaves her for him and go to check the conference room. Jiang Chan, when he walked along the corridor, was thinking that this was the school of his stepmother, and this means that this is his school too. How they dare to create this. When he opened the next door, he asked the guys to stop immediately. One of them turned to him and asked who he was and who led him here. He asked him to dump from here until he got angry. Jiang Chan, on the contrary, was approaching the guys and asked who they were. He exclaimed that this was not a place for people like them. Their leader replied that he tried to save him from unnecessary problems, and that he imagined Superman from himself, or he wears panties over his clothes. Jiang Chan thought about that looking at these villains that they beat that teacher, but how he was connected with these scum. The man asked for better not to climb into his business. He wanted the boy to disappear right now and he would be may spare his leg. Then the boy exclaimed, approaching them, that they were tired of living villains. He began to approach faster and faster, not at all fearing this gang. The leader gave the team to wet him and they began to approach the enemy with his fists. Jiang Chung stood as if they were dead, not afraid of these villains, and expected an attack from them. He clenched his fist and with a deft movement of his hand neutralized one of the bandits. After that, with two fists, he hit two more right in the face. The bandits began to fall to the floor with a cry, turning over. The leader was very angry and squeezed his teeth in the direction of this impudent enemy. The leader of the gang grabbed the first wooden chair with both hands. He crept up to the guy and raised this chair above his head as high as possible. But before he hit Jiang Chan on the head, the boy was the first above his head and broke a chair. The boy came closer to them and asked how these guys generally got into the gang. They are too weak to survive in it. He took the phone in his hands and thought that it looked like he should ask someone to take care of them. He called and asked the head of the department is tired of his position and wants someone to change it. Jiang Chung explained that hooligans made their way to school and asked where the education department was looking. The man replied that how this could happen at all, and he will immediately send someone. Jiang Chung explained that he cut them out, and they are in a conference hall. The boy asked to come and get here. To himself, he thought that the name of his father really works miracles. But what these bandits have forgotten here, and what the teacher has to do with this. Everything seems to be much more complicated than it seems. Well, let the education department deal with this, and he needs to go. And now several days have passed. Jiang Chung thought that there were no lessons today, and you can relax a little at home. He held his phone in his hands, and suddenly the phone rang in his hands. The boy thought that this hot little thing seems to want to invite him on a date. But before he could answer the call, the girl asked him to save her faster. Jiang Chan asked her to calm down and said, then he was already on the way. The boy thought that this is the same situation as with the case in the bar. The girl screamed faster to come to school and help her. One of the guys asked how this girl dared to call somewhere and asked to give a phone here to break him. The boy thought that something really serious happened at school. He ran as soon as possible, but a thick chain with a large lock hung on the gate. He approached the gate and noticed that the school gates were closed. What is happening there? It remains only to climb over the wall. Inside there are so many students with teachers. If something happens, the consequences will be unimaginable. Jiang Chung was inside and thought about what was happening in general and where all the students went. He began to search the building, but there really was nobody there and no one even protruded. A huge high-rise building rose to the sky itself. The guy glanced at her. He thought that they seemed to be kept hostage in one place. Where can you keep so many people? He began to look at the school outside and decided to go to the gym rather. Why put the guard there? There was not a single person similar to a guard. The boy began to approach the gym and looked out from behind the wall. He decided, it seems here, near the gym, were two guys with machine guns. Jiang Chung was surprised that they were with weapons and tried to understand who they were. He decided to climb to the second floor to look and began to climb the pipe. He climbed through the pipe to the second floor and jumped inside. The boy noticed that no one is guarding here and hid a little. Jiang Chanbi began to look closely through the gap. He heard some sounds near himself. There were probably people there. Indeed, the entire room was guarded by armed people and there were hostages. The boy began to look closely and asked what kind of goblin they were plotting here. Before us was a huge school gym. One of the men called the other in the radio. He asked him to carefully monitor the street and not even let the fly inside. He also said to stop hoping that the cops would save them. He is around him, and they will not miss them. The man said, turning to hostages, that he knows that they are all the kids of rich parents, and they ask them just to do what he says and none of them will suffer. Their requirements are simple. They should immediately call their parents and tell them to prepare 1 million yuan. They will lose their finger if there are at least 1 day smaller. The guys silently listened to the man, looking at him with fear. Jiang Qing thought that the problem was that these thugs could kill hostages after they cut the money. He decided that he needed to quickly come up with something and glanced at the basket of balls. These balls near which he passed, some kind of noise of the boy heard there. The balls from the basket spilled out and flew throughout the room, flying around in different directions. One of the men turned to his guys and asked them to immediately check the floor above. The guys immediately began to climb the steps. Armed people fled up as soon as possible. They were lightning speed upstairs and the boy was already hiding in the doorway under the ceiling. His gaze changed, and he began to laugh like a demon. Jiang Chan was ready for anything. And now a few minutes passed. The man again began to call the walkie-talkie. He asked what was happening on the second floor. The man asked to answer to confirm. He told the rest that something was happening there, and he gave the command to quit guard the door and check there. He also directed the rest of the guys to go with them. Armed men began to climb the steps. They were already approaching the guy. There were many balls from a large basket around. Jiang Chan, as if lightning, headed forward. Armed guys saw him. They were surprised by his speeds. The boy flew up to the guys and disarmed two. Another, he hit his face with all his might in his face, and he flew back. Then the next went to expense. A deft movement of the elbow of the guy hit him on the nose. Another enemy was neutralized, and the boy pressed him face to the floor. All these people were in masks and were very surprised by what was happening. They could not understand who it was like that alone cope with armed people. Jiang Chung continued to wave his fists, scattering all the armed guys. One of them managed to pull out the weapon and instructed the gun directly onto the boy. Jiang Chan again, with a deft movement of his legs, neutralized the enemy, knocking out a weapon out of his hands. After that, he hit his face with his fist and launched into a flight. The gun was on the floor. The boy tried to knock him out of the enemy's hands well. He began to raise this weapon from the floor, and now at least some defense was with him. The boy thought that only two were left below. The time to start the attack. Jiang Chan began to climb the steps, scattering everyone in his path. He continued to fight his opponents and began to approach the next of them. The boy put the weapon in front of him and began to shoot as soon as possible. Bullets began to fly out of a pistol. The masked man writhed in pain. He kept wriggling and shouted as the blow to the blow was catching him. He grimaced in a terrible grimace and screamed to fall to the floor. Jiang Chung, jumping as high as possible and neutralizing several more people, fell to his knee. He landed on one knee and instructed the gun on another guy. But there not the leader had already seen him and aimed. The boy did not notice him but felt and quickly dodged him to the side. His shoulder was a little overwhelmed with a bullet, but the wound was not so serious. He managed to shoot at the gang leader, and he began to fall on his back. The students observed what was happening and asked, was it really their truth in physical education? One of the students said that it was very cool. From that moment on, he is her peasant, and even let him not dare to touch him. The girl began to approach Jiang Chan. She asked if he was injured. The guy closing his eyes replied that he was just abrasion from the bullet. She said that he was touched and he must immediately go to the hospital. Jiang Cheng said that he would do so after the police arrived. The teacher said that they had already called the police. They will soon be here and asked not to worry. She told Jiang Chan that he was an adult so that he needs to talk less and go to the hospital more lively. She explained that this wound is from a bullet and he immediately needs to go to the hospital. She agreed to go with him. The boy did not resist and went down the corridor. They decided not to hesitate, but rather go to the hospital. Police cars stood on the street. The teacher asked him to see that the police are already here, so he can go to the hospital with her. And now they were already climbing the second floor. The girl said that he had a lot of blood and should be very hurt. Jiang Chan replied that this was just abrasion. He received more serious injuries in the unit. The boy asked her not to worry and said that he was in order. The teacher noticed that he was so cool today. He must be magnificent in his unit. The boy replied that of course it was and looked forward somewhere. Suddenly, the phone rang in his pocket and he reached for him. He took out the phone and looked at him. Father called him and he immediately picked up the phone. Jiang Chung asked his father why this is suddenly such an employed person as he calls him. He asked how he could help. Father replied that he had heard as if he had been injured. Then the boy replied that he should know that his son is handsome. A little abrasion from the bullet will not harm him. Father asked. He didn't boast of how cool he was in the unit. And everything was already wounded by the second-rate cephalores and called it a weakling. The boy replied that this was all due to the fact that he tried to protect his future bride. Father was immediately delighted when he heard about the daughter-in-law and asked in order, or she. If something happens to her, it will be his fault. Father clearly worried about his son. Then he said that in any case this mission of his grandfather, the future of their family Jiang, in his hands. Father asked his son to go about his own business and get his bride. The son answered him that he would do so and asked him to go to work better. He knows what to do. When the boy turned off, he immediately closed his eyes with exhaling heavily. The teacher asked why his father mentioned 4 daughter-in-laws and what he was talking about. The boy exclaimed that she rustled. What are 4 other daughter-in-laws? The girl asked not to try to fool her. He really put his eyes on those 4 beauties. Well, he has an appetite. The boy decided that she understood everything. It will turn out very awkward if she finds out that one of them. The teacher laughed and said that she was just joking. She asked him to see how scared he was. He is in good shape, but if 4 beauties are serviced, he will not be able to withstand it for a long time. The girl calmed down and said that she would not tease him and asked him to take him home. The boy smiled and replied that he was afraid it would be a burden to her. The teacher said that they are colleagues and do not need to stand on ceremony. She took his arm and they headed towards the exit from the hospital. And now, several days have passed. It was sunny and clear outside. Jiang Cheng thought that his mother was concerned about his wound and wanted him to rest for several days. But this little wound has already healed, and he was already all at home from boredom. The guy's phone vibrated again. Jingwen called him. He asked him how he feels there, if he was better already. And they asked if he woke up. The boy explained that he was used to getting up early in the troops and did not like to sleep for a long time. In addition, it is already noon. Jingwen asked Jiang Chan Li has a normal pot. And did he not forget anything? Then the guy began to remember, but nothing came to mind. The girl asked that it was with him. He said that he would take care of her. Or he was afraid that she would be too much and is now afraid to come. Jiang Cheng realized that he really forgot about it. He asked where she is now. Jingwen replied that she was near the school gate. The boy asked her to wait for him there and said that he would be in a minute. He got dressed very quickly and began to approach the school gate. He thought that he was feeling lousy as he made her wait. Jingwen was already waiting for him near the school, looking forward. Jiang Cheng went to the girl as soon as possible and waved her hand. She noticed that he had come and was delighted with this. She stood near the school gate in anticipation in all her glory. The boy looked at her and said that she had very beautiful stockings. She asked what he was looking at, and she asked to stop staring with her perverted eyes. She explained that she rarely puts on black stockings. If not for his strange request, then she would not have put them on. Jiang Chan laughed back and said that she still put them on. Jingwen asked the guy how he could forget that he invited her to dinner. No sincerity, or he is afraid that she will devastate his wallet. Jiang Cheng replied that her words were upset. He asked where she would like to eat and said that she would take care of it. The girl asked how his wound is all right. The boy replied that she had healed for a long time, and with his body it was just a trifle. He asked where she wants to go and what kind of kitchen he prefers, Western or Eastern. Jingwen replied that not the other. She wants to eat sharp malatan. Jiang Chan thought that she was talking about the devastation of his wallet, and she herself ordered a sharp soup. The girl said that she knew a good place nearby and asked to follow her. They headed towards the restaurant called Malatan. Jingwen said, looking at the guy, that she ordered another and he should try him. The boy replied that of course he would try and sent food to her mouth. The girl began to try this dish and wept. She exclaimed that he was really sharp. Jiang Chen noticed that it seems she prefers a bright taste. Then she replied that Malatan is more acute, the better and much tastier. Jiang Cheng asked why she stutters and asked, really she could not speak normally. Jingwen explained that this is her fault and this is really too sharp. In the meantime, some man began to approach them. He went straight to the table and asked the girl to drink with him. She turned to him and exclaimed that she did not even know him and there is no sense in it. Then the man leaned toward the table and said that it was very rude to refuse him. One of the guys at the other table began to shout that she was better off agreeing. The second said that their boss was so kind that he invited her personally. The man again said that it does not depend at all on his girlfriend and asked him to follow him. The man continued to impudent and asked her not to be shy but to go with him. He went behind her and began to call to him again. Jingwen said again that she did not want. Then, her comrade immediately grabbed this impudent man by the hand and asked if they were blind, or they do not see that he is right in front of them. The man asked the dude to know his place. He said that they would take her with them. But the boy got up from his place and, squeezing his fist, asked him not even to dream of his girlfriend and called him a discharge. He approached his enemy and threw him back. He crashed him so strongly that he flew off to the next table and fell his back on him. The rest of the guys began to approach them, and one of them asked if he wanted fights. Jiang Cheng exclaimed that their lust is a disease and have to fix it. The boy went to one of the opponents and hit him with his fist with all his might. He said that he would do it for free for them, and even let them dare to do it again. Jiang Cheng scattered all the guys and asked them to get out of here immediately and now. They screamed from the floor and ran to the exit. Then the boy returned back to the table. He told the girl that he had already figured everything out and asked if she had defended her. Jingwen lowered her head down and, closing her eyes, called it narcissism. Then the guy invited her to continue. No need to let that couple of bandits spoil their mood. He asked if she was afraid. Jingwen replied that of course not. She was not afraid of them. After all, she has him next to her. Jiang Cheng exclaimed, looking at the girl, that he was thinking that she was scared. She asked not to parody her. Then the boy said that she really was talking so funny. Then he laughed and promised not to do this anymore. Jingwen raised a glass of water to drink this very sharp dish. Then she got angry and asked how he dares to laugh at her. Yes, and right in her face. The boy smiled and said that she noticed that she had stopped stuttering. After his words, she took his hand by the ear and pulled him up. She explained that her tongue was just numb. Does he really think that she cannot deal with him? Jiang Chan asked him to take pity on him and apologized to her. She said that he would forgive him, but first should teach him a small lesson. The boy smiled in response and completely agreed with her. She offered to do something interesting. Jiang Chung spread his hands to the side and asked what she had in mind by interesting. Then Jingwen grimaced and asked what he was thinking about. She wanted to offer to go to the entertainment park. The boy smiled and replied that he thought it would be something more interesting. Jingwen asked him or not. The boy replied that, of course, there was an honor for him. They stood from behind the table and headed for the exit from the restaurant. Jiang Chung asked why she was going so far from him. He will not eat her if he comes closer, and took carefully by the hand. The girl was a little embarrassed and asked to let go because it looked strange. Jiang Chung explained to the girl that since he invited her, today she was not so shy about him. Jingwen exclaimed, closing into her eyes, that she did not agree to this. She asked him really such a way to admit his feelings. But he took her hand and pulled her entertainment park right in front of them. The guys were already approaching a huge entertainment park. The boy asked where she wanted to go. Jingwen replied that she was looking for something more exciting. Now she pulled him towards the slide. They headed for the American Hill. They have long been traveled along these long, dangerous slides. Zhongqing thought that, in comparison with guns and fire that he experienced on himself, it was too weak. It does not take breath at all. After American Hills, they rode water transport. The boy said that they visited all terrible attractions. Why her legs shake? The girl replied that she was not, and she was not such a coward. Jiang Chung said that she is a brave beauty. Jiang Chan said Jingwen that he is already evening and he was conducting it. The girl replied that she lives nearby, so they were on the way. She said that today, a very relaxing day. Jiang Chan agreed and said that this is a good way to discharge after the working week. This is his tip. Usually he takes a fee for a day as a personal bodyguard. Then Jingwen asked what bodyguards open their hands. More like a pervert. Jiang Chung said his hands out to the sides, that even if he is not a bodyguard and still remains a pervert, then to protect her. He still can get money. Of course he said all this with a joke. Jingwen laughed and replied that it makes sense. She asked how he wanted to get a fee and touched him with his hand by the shoulder. The boy looked towards her chest and blushed a little with embarrassment. He thought that she had a very delightful look. Jingwen asked where he was looking and called him a fool. She looked at him and asked what he was thinking. Jiang Chung asked how to pay him, joining him for a trip to the mountains this weekend. She decided that she did not think that he would ask for something so noble. The weekend promises to be funny. She is sure that the next time it will be even more fun. So they agreed, looking at the most beautiful dawn. The boy asked if it was possible to ask her a personal question. The girl asked to ask. To herself, she thought about what he wants to know about her. Jiang Chan looked into her eyes and asked if she had a guy. Jingwen replied not. She could not understand why he suddenly asked about it. Does he really like her? He probably wants to admit her, and she is very nervous. She thought how to agree to her. Next to them was the sound of a car, and the headlights blinded their silhouettes. Jiang Chan was alert and turned his head towards the white car. The car drove up to them very close. The boy could not understand what was happening. The car stopped right near them and some guy began to get out of him. The man was very aggressive and threw an evil look at this couple. A few more guys with huge wooden bits and knives came behind him. One of the men showed the boss on the guy and said that it was he. The boss laughed and asked if he knew that it was impossible to contact the wrong people. Jiang Chung said in response that they dared to drag their friends in order to take revenge. It seems to be the end of their evening. The boy asked the girl what show she wants him to arrange. Jingwen thought that if they had not prevented them, she would tell him and his recognition. Jiang Chung promised the girl to do everything that she would say. She asked to knock out all the nonsense out of them. The man took out his saber and said in a formidable tone that they were generally awesome to flirt here in front of them. He began to wave his sharp saber in front of him, approaching the guys. Jiang Chung explained to his opponent that he was too weak, and it was pretty boring. Why shouldn't they attack together? The boss asked if he was building a hero. He asked his guys not to regret him and beat him to death. They will finish him and shout to the party. Jiang Chan clenched his fists and exclaimed that they would be lucky if they could walk after that. The boy approached one of them, to a man who was holding a sharp saber in his hands. He made him a reception with a lightning move and called it all a ridiculous. The boy very quickly scattered all these guys and they roar with a roar. Jiang Chan spread his hands to the side and exclaimed that it was too weak and he was already bored. The boss squeezed his teeth and replied that he had hardly beaten one and already so much fee. Jiang Chan replied that in order to show off, you need to have some skills, and he has them. The boss gave the command to lean on everyone together, let him show what he is capable of. Jingwen was afraid for the guy and asked him to be careful. Jiang Cheng asked the beauty not to worry in response. He promised to knock out all the nonsense out of them. The boy rushed to meet his enemy like lightning. His leg was already near a bunch of garbage, and he threw two to the ground. Then the guy also approached the rest of the guys and began to scatter them. Jingwen was leaning for him and screamed so that he would not give up and hold it like that. She encouraged him more and more. Zhongcheng continued to throw out all these arrogant armed guys. There was a dark night outside and the lanterns shone around. The fight continued and the teeth flew in different directions and the screams of opponents were heard around. The boy every now and then beat these armed guys in turn. Sometimes he beat them at the same time as if he had not two fists, but much more. Jiang Chan was incredibly strong and his abilities were given to know. He was just an ace of his business and scattered the whole pile of these arrogant, unscrupulous guys. The boss thought looking at the guy that he was too strong and pulled back. He decided that he must certainly run and headed towards the alley. But before he had time to take a couple of steps as Jiang Chan grabbed his hand by the throat. He pushed him and threw it right on the ground. The guy fell his back on the asphalt. When the boy wanted to hit him squeezing his fists, he asked for mercy from him. Jiang Chan asked about what mercy he was talking about and said that he did not seem to be a penny does not put his life. He promised the guy to knock all his nonsense out of him, and a heavy fist flew right into his physiognomy. The guy again began to say that he was a jerk and did not immediately understand who was dealing with. He asked to take pity on him and not beat him, forgive him for his behavior. He again began to apologize to his knees in front of Jiang Chan. The guy swore that he would never contact him again. Then the guy answered the enemy that he was to take pity or not to decide not to him and looked at his companion. When the girl went to the enemy, he grunted, kneeling in front of her. The guy called her Madam Boss and asked to show mercy. Jingwen replied that she was not Madam Boss and asked to stop calling her like that. But the guy fell to his knees again and said that they were very, very sorry and called her Madame Boss. He asked to talk to Jiang Chan and let them leave. Then the boy asked him to calm down and get out. Never get on their eyes again. The guy thanked Mrs. Boss and the boy again for letting them go. The girl asked how he dared to use them to call her like that. When she managed to become his wife, Jiang Cheng replied that he said nothing. They just began to call her so, but he did not complain. She threw a despicable look at him and asked what to complain about. She again grabbed the boy in the ear and asked if she was not beautiful enough for him. Let her look more carefully and we'll say if she is good enough for him. Jiang Cheng immediately replied that, of course it was good. Then the girl instantly let him go. The boy rubbing his ear said that she was really ruthless. Jingwen said that you need to be ruthless to make sure that he would remember it. Jiang Cheng said he would remember and this will not happen again. He asked for permission to conduct her. But the girl said that she was already at home and he could leave. She waved his hand and they said goodbye. The girl said they would see her at school tomorrow. Jiang Cheng the next morning began to approach the corridor to the door. He neatly approached the door and took his hand by the handle opening it. When the boy opened the door, he was very surprised and asked him, was his office. There were many gifts on the table. Suddenly, behind his back, he heard a voice. Jingwen asked if he was surprised. He became quite popular among school students, and now he is a hero. Jiang Cheng said that this is already too much. The girl explained that there were still a bunch of letters for him and asked to put everything in order. The boy was even more surprised and noticed that there are really love letters on these pink letters. But he did not matter and he decided to see what was written there. The letter was addressed to the brother and it was said that it was time to tell him about her feelings. She can clearly imagine each part of his body continue to emerge in his face and his head. She suffers and misses him very much. In the second letter, the girl greeted him and wrote that they were created for each other. She is not embarrassed by the age difference, and she believes that they will become an ideal pair. Tonight she will wait for him at the hotel. The boy was shocked and could not understand what was happening in their heads. Jingwen explained that he is a hero for them from the day that saved the school. This is just the peak of the iceberg of their love for him. But she asked him to be careful because they love to make fun of people. Jiang Cheng thanked the girl for understanding and exclaimed that he was running to classes. When he walked along the corridor, the girl called him. He turned in her direction and began to listen. The girl explained that they are all grateful to him for his act in the gym. The boy asked to stop. He just did what he had to. The girl explained that she did not thank him for saving her from Qian Shou. She asked whether he was free tonight and asked for permission to treat him with dinner. Jiang Cheng asked she should not offer him herself in this situation. When the girl did not understand him, he explained that he was just joking and said that they would call in the evening since he had a lesson. Before us is a sports ground and a physical education lesson began. Jiang Qing told his students that they were lined up very carefully today, and this is good. But this is quite unusual in what they want from him. Then one of the guys, turning to Mr. Jiang Chan, asked if he could teach them martial arts. The boy replied that it was not so simple. Why do they want to learn this or just want to arrange a fight? The guy answered the teacher that not, and they are not going to fight. He just wants to learn kung fu and become as beautiful as him. One of the girls asked him to forget about it and look at himself. The second asked not to draw the face of their hero with her. Didn't he dare to Mr. Jiang the last time? The boy asked the guys first to justify him a clear reason, then they would talk. One of the girls asked the brother whether he saw a love letter from Chen. Qianxian asked not to carry nonsense because she did not write this, but the girl continued to talk about and insist what she wrote, and she herself saw it. Jiang Chen spread his hands to the side and asked to stop trying to play him. And now it is necessary to start a lesson. He gave the guys the task to start with a run. The boy was surprised since they were surprisingly obedient today. It seems he really made a strong impression on them. Jiang Chan called Chu Xin and said that he reserved a table in the restaurant of Huas. But the girl asked, didn't she say what she treats today? The boy replied that he was not in his style to force the girl to pay and said that they would see herself in place. Chu Xin agreed, and they said goodbye. Jiang Qing thought that he heroically saved her at their first meeting at school. Since then, they have not intersected. And now she suddenly invited him to a cafe. It seems to him that something is brewing. The boy was already near this restaurant, and the girl suddenly called him. Chu Xin went up to him and asked for a long time he was waiting. Jiang Cheng replied that he had only come. He explained that he ordered several dishes and asked to go inside. The girl immediately agreed, and they went to the cafe. On the table, there were already plates with food. Chu Xin asked how he found out that she loved these dishes. He probably brought in certificates of her preferences. Jiang Cheng replied that in order to share dinner with such a beauty, he was obliged to perform homework. The girl said that she did not know that he was so caring, and she said that his girlfriend was very lucky. Jiang Chan replied that his parents should be hiding her well, because he does not even know how she looks. Chu Xin was a little embarrassed and surprised that such a good man and lonely. It was a good surprise for her. Jiang Chan said that if his girlfriend were as beautiful as she would be great. Chu Xin blushed a little, blushing at him. She exclaimed her hands by her face that he was embarrassed by her. But the boy said that this is pure true. Then she asked to stop and start to eat. Jiang Chan noticed that there was good food and she completely won his stomach. He asked if the girl was 8 or wants to go somewhere else, then he can go with her. Chu Xin replied that she had eaten and said that she could be late next time. She catches him on a word. She will ask him from him in a week when she will be free. Jiang Chan smiled at the girl in response and called her the lady, said that he was any time. Chu Xin looked out the window and noticed that it was raining outside. She said that it looks like she would get wet. The boy replied that she would get wet in such clothes and catch a cold. He cannot allow her to walk in this form in the rain. The boy asked the girl to give him 1 minute, and she immediately agreed. Jiang Cheng stepped aside and called his father. He explained that he needed little help. Father asked what trouble he was stuck this time and told him to deal with his problems. Jiang Chan explained that he just wanted to ask him to send a car to pick him up. It rains outside. He doesn't care if he got wet, but is not sure that his daughter-in-law will remain in order after that. Father immediately asked where he was and said he will immediately send the car. He promised to send the car only to say the location. Before he could send a geolocation, as the car had already driven to the cafe, a man went into the room and said that he came to pick them up. The girl asked the secretary what he was doing here. Is this not the secretary of the education department? Chu Xin told the boy when they drove up to the house that they were already in place. Jiang Cheng asked to take her inside, but the girl replied that she was already here and everything would be in order with her. Jiang Cheng said that such a beauty can attract all kinds of troubles. He will be calmer if he spends her. On the street continued to pour heavy rain. Jiang Chan and Chu Si approached the corridor to the door. The girl said that she was already at the threshold and now thinks he may certainly be calm. But the boy replied that no, they are still outside and he will lead her inside. She opened the door and said that she had already crossed the threshold. Chu Si asked, perhaps he wants to go to tea. Jiang Chan immediately agreed. The girl began to turn on the light, but for some reason he did not turn on. The boy explained that he thinks that the wiring could suffer from the rain and asked to leave it on him. He promised to repair the wiring and asked to wait for him here. The girl agreed and apologized for inconvenience. The boy left and he was not half an hour. When he returned, he called the call, so as not to confuse the girl. Chu Sai immediately went to the door and began to open it so that the guy came in. The girl immediately thanked Jiang Chan for helping her with wiring, He replied that these were trifles and there is no gratitude. Chu, looking at the kid, said that he was all wet and he better remove wet clothes, otherwise he could catch a cold. Jiang Chan answered the girl that he was too strong to catch a cold, but before he had time to finish it as he began to sneeze. Then Chusi asked him to stop building a cool one. She reached for his clothes and said that she would bring him medicine. He did not expect to really catch a cold and a little embarrassed. Chusi went for water and pills and handed him a glass of warm water. The guy washed down a pill and sneezed again after that. The girl asked him could be better off with her at night. Jiang Chan was very surprised at such a matter and asked if she was sure of this. She got angry and asked what he was thinking about. He will spend the night in the guest room. If he had not caught a cold because of the rain, she would not allow him to stay. Jiang Chung thanked the girl and apologized. He asked for permission to stay. Then the girl asked him to stop having to sweetheart and said that she would take him to the guest's room. Chusi opened the door in front of him, showing the room, and asked not to sit up late. He got sick. The boy thought that it would be necessary to get up tomorrow early and prepare a surprise for her. And then the next day came. Jiang Chan woke up after the night of Chusi. A very tasty aroma reached the girl and she began to sniff. She could not understand where it smells so tasty. Then she remembered that Jiang Chung stayed yesterday with her. It's necessary to get up rather, because it is impossible to see it in this form. She began to open the door looking inside. The girl exclaimed that it looks very cool and asked if he needed an assistant. Jiang Chung replied that he could not allow such a beauty as she as an assistant. Just asks her to sit down and eat. The boy asked the girl how to taste. Chushi replied that she was just fine, and she did not expect a man like him so good in cooking. Jiang Cheng, looking into her eyes, explained that this was gratitude for allowing him to stay last night to him. Chusi said that they had dinner yesterday, and even the secretary brought them. I wonder what will happen today if he is preparing. Then the boy asked how to ask the head of the education department to throw them to school. But then he thought that it would be better to ask his father to be them with a driver after sleeping with her. Otherwise, she would begin to whine again. Jiang Chen laughed and said that he was just joking. He called a taxi and the car will be here by that time, so they will finish to eat. Chusi asked to hurry, otherwise they will be late. Jiang Chung and Chusi already drove up to the high school building. Chusi explained to the guy that she needed to prepare for the first lesson and they will see herself later. While they said goodbye to the girl from the second floor, watched them through the window. It was the director, and she drew someone on the phone. She said as if she saw how Jiang Chung and Chu came to school today. She thinks that he does not allow the option with her grandchildren from mixed marriages. But he said that nothing like this, and from a mixed marriage or not, he simply obliged him to give birth to his grandson. Father decided that his Malay is nimble, but not fast enough since he still does not have a child. Is there any other thing that she does not know about? In fact, he spent this night at Chu Si. The man said that she really did not know about it. He asked how he found out. She explained that she has her own people everywhere, and this is true. Maybe ask him at night today. So they agreed to do, and now Jiang Chan has already gone towards himself. He received a message from his sister. She wrote that Dad knows that he had spent the night with that girl. He is waiting for at home, and she asks him to prepare. Jiang Chung thought that it looked like a secretary to blame him everything. He decided to see if he could somehow fool him this time. The boy opened the door and asked if he was not busy all week. What a surprise to see him here. When his son came in, his father asked him to stop choosing. He knows very well why he returned. Then the son said that he is always so busy with his schedule, and he has no idea what he's doing. Then his father looked at him strictly and asked to tell him what happened yesterday. Is it worth it to start preparing a wedding gift and a room? Jiang Chung asked his father not to cook anything. He understood everything incorrectly, and he spent the night in the guest room. Then his father began to scream at him and said that his month was almost over. He does not care who it will be, but he must marry as soon as possible. Mother asked which of them he got along better. Or her organize one office for 5. Jiang Chan asked his mother to calm down and not joke like that. He's already satisfied with his office as he is. He told his father that he had a long day and he wants to relax. Father sighed and asked what kind of child, and his mother said that he himself knew what to do. The guy climbed to the second floor to his room and exhaled that he had finally got off from them. The sister met him. She called her brother. He asked what was the matter. The girl began to explain that if Dad finds out that she warned him in advance, he would not give her pocket money. Jiang Chan asked why she was so scared, or she again tries to beg him with a little cash. Then, the boy took out a pack of money and asked if this was enough. If not, then he thinks he will have to think about a decrease in the cost of her nutrition. The sister asked not to sit up late and said that she was enough. Jiang Chung said that he would return to his room then. To himself, when he left, the sister thought that her older brother was very stingy as someone could like him at all. Before he could go out the door, he ran from all legs somewhere to the exit. The sister asked where he was going. Jiang Chan replied that something had happened and asked to keep it secret from his mother and father. Then the girl asked to pay her for her silence. The boy approached the door. It was already dark on the street and the stars lit the sky. He thought that Mayor called for help, but what could happen to her in such a place? Although with her proud character, she really fell into trouble once asked for help. He heard that she asked Jiang Lei to fall off from her. Jiang Chung realized that this is the voice of Mayor. The guy grabbed her hand and said not even to make up to blame. The girl asked to let her go. Jiang Chen ran to this sound in order to understand what was happening in the end. Mary, when she saw the guy, asked him to take her from here. But Jiang Lei said that this was not his business. He looked menacingly at the guy and, having poked his finger at him, asked to roll from here. Jiang Chan replied that the Terpers could not when people poke their fingers in it. With one deft movement, he made this insolent reception and he grabbed his hand. Mayor immediately ran up to the boy and asked to take her away from here as soon as possible. Jiang Chung asked if she knew him. The girl replied that they were not close. He was just a familiar and asked to go. Jiang Lei called him a scoundrel and exclaimed that then, even if he did not dare to think to take her away with him. Jiang Chung thought that too many questions have accumulated without answers. It will be necessary to ask after taking it out of here. The girl took his hand and asked to run faster. The boy replied that he would not leave here without her today. Opponents blocked the way for the guys. Jiang Lei brought brother to do and asked them to devote this guy, since he was probably tired of living. The guy asked how he dared to contact them in their territories and asked his guys to tear this guy. Jiang Chan expected an attack and asked the opponents to attack him. He said that they could not do anything. Then the guys clenched their fists and screamed forward to meet the boy. A heavy fist flew in their direction, throwing all the guys. Opponents received well from Jiang Chan, but they did not give up. Jiang Lei gave the command to the guys more likely to kill this scoundrel, and they again rushed to the meeting of the enemy. The boy squeezed his fist again and decided that they seemed to really like to dig a grave for themselves. He flew up to a bunch of villains and began to beat them one by one. Many blows flew towards opponents, and they now and then scattered in different directions. Jiang Chung went to Meyer and asked her to leave. He explained that he called a taxi and would take her home. Meanwhile, the full moon shone on the street, making a bright and beautiful night. They drove up to the girl's house. Huge high-rise buildings rose to the sky, and in some of them the light was still shining. He began to pull the girl out of the car and said that they were already in place. Mayor replied, sighing heavily that beer hit her head and her head was spinning. The boy felt that he was beery from her, and he wondered how much she drank. Jiang Chan asked her to hold on to him and promised to help her go into the house. They climbed to the 5th floor and went into the apartment where Mayor lived. They went to the bathroom where there was a wash basin. Jiang Chung asked Li. The girl replied that she wants to sleep. The boy replied that he would put her on the bed. She did not stop talking about what she wanted to sleep. Jiang Chan carried her in her arms in the room. He wanted to put her to sleep as soon as possible to make her even easier. He threw the girl on the bed. She fell apart and immediately began to fall asleep. She was exhausted very quickly as she was drunk. The boy noticed that the dress was stained and decided that he would have to remove it. But this can cause a misunderstanding later, although it is not the time to think about it. Jiang Chan felt her body beckoning him, and he hatched on her. He decided to behave more calmly because he is a gentleman. Gentlemen did not stand so. Jiang Chung turned away and decided that he simply did not need to look. He will do it quickly. And now he already exhaled in relief. He had already headed for his door to get out of the room. But then I thought that she had drunk a lot. And what if something happens to her? The boy decided to stay on the couch and look after her today, resting on the sofa. And now the long-awaited morning has come. The girl woke up and got out of bed. She asked why he was at her house and asked what he did to her. Jiang Chung replied that he did nothing. She was drunk in the trash and he did not lead her. Mayor replied that although he took care of her, no one asked him to linger here. And who changed her? She asked whether he took advantage of her. Jiang Chung said. Then he changed her, but only because her clothes were stained. He asked if he would sleep on the couch if he had taken advantage of her condition. Mayor thought that she really drank last night. Since he was sleeping on the couch, he could not do anything with her. In addition, she herself asked him for help. The girl thanked the guy about yesterday. He answered, let him not worry, and these are trifles. He asked who this Jiang Lei was with whom they crossed yesterday. They are just acquaintances with him. Mayor explained that he was her ex-brother. She herself did not expect to see him there. This is not worth attention, and she asked him to forget about it. He asked her not to worry and said that he went to school. The girl thought about looking in the back of the guy that he was too kind. Jung Chung went outside and thought about his sister. She just called him. The sister asked her brother which of his daughter-in-law he spent the night. The boy asked to stop carrying nonsense and why her head was clogged with such a heresy. The girl said to her father, which is already known and she can no longer hide it. Now he is on his own. It is not tolerant to see his wife or child at home. Jiang Chan noticed that it looks like her. The sky was blue and bright. The sun illuminated everything around me. Jiang Chan approached the beauty of January. The girl noticed that he was in a good mood, whether he will tell why they are still colleagues. The boy winked at her. He asked how he could not rejoice when he sees such a cutie in the morning. Suddenly, his mother entered the room. She asked if she had prevented them and noticed that they were spending good time here. The boy realized that my mother is already trying to find out about her. Jan asked a woman whether they can help her with something and called the director. The woman replied that there was one task for them. They must put a stamp in this document in the Ministry of Education. The son replied that of course everything would be done without problems. The girl also said that it was not a question. Jiang Cheng thought he was embarrassed because of this situation. But their kinship has not yet been disclosed. So far, it is better to just listen to it. Mother told the guys that they could just take her car to get there. She pointed her finger at the table and said that the key's on the table. The car is located in the parking lot. Jiang Chan thought that everything was clear to him. She prepared and definitely thinks something. And now they were already on the street in a huge campus parking lot. Jiang Cheng asked Jan if she was afraid that he would be driving if he was very rare. The girl replied that on the contrary, she was interested in knowing what it was. The boy said that he was catching her on a word. Just ask her not to be scared too much. And now they began to climb into the car. Jiang Chan got behind the wheel. The girl asked not to worry and said to go. And so the boy pressed the gas and the car drove very quickly moving from the place. Jan bulged her eyes, probably really scared. The car was driving faster and faster. Jiang Chan tried to be careful. The girl inhaled and said that she thinks he drives very not bad. Jiang Chan replied that when he was with the detachment on tasks, he had to ride quickly. Now he has nowhere to hurry and everything will be safe and smooth. Therefore, he is rarely driving for him unusual. To himself, the boy thought that it would be necessary to find out whether it was a plan in her mother's plan or not. By the way, they should take this document annually or not. Jan replied that yes, but usually the director is engaged in this. Then he has no idea why this time they should be removed. Jiangshan thought to himself that his mother could just deliver it to my dad home at once. His parents are definitely involved in this. The guys ended up in the Ministry of Education. Jan asked the guy whether they would deliver him right to the chef. The meeting is not scheduled, therefore, does not think that this is a good idea. The boy replied that everything was in order and asked her not to worry. They began to approach the door and he thought about what a meeting. This is just his father. When he pressed the bell, his father asked to enter. Father asked his son why he was here. The son replied that the mother asked them to deliver this document and asked him to look. Father said that he did not expect that the director would personally send them to send him and thanked his son. Jiang Cheng replied that there was no problem and called his father a chief, explaining that they were a joy. Meanwhile, his father decided that his future daughter-in-law looks good. He should help his son score more points. Father asked to look at 2 tickets for a sports and entertainment event. He handed his son tickets and said that it was 2 for them. Zhang Chan thanked the chief and said that they would definitely visit him. And if all, then it is time for them. The boy decided that this was a good move. This is a clear coercion to a date. The girl said that she did not know that she and the chef were so getting along, but the boy replied that they barely know each other. To himself, he thought that he could not allow him to reveal that he was his son. First of all, it is better to keep it secret. He does not need a gold seeker. Jiang Cheng was interested in whether he had to take her home. Jan replied that without problems, and then they could return to school together. Father looked at the girl while they left his office. He thought that this future daughter-in-law is not deprived of appearance and figure. Besides, it is sensitive and smart. He hopes that his boy will be able to deliver her to their home as quickly as possible. The day was very beautiful and bright. Cars rushed along the highway. Before us is the Tenai School. The car drove up to this building. There were many different guys outside. The guy threw a curious look at them. He wondered why this suddenly so many hooligans divorced here. Are they looking for adventures? Jiang Cheng said that there are strangers near the school and he would go to check. and Jan asked to help return the keys to the director. The girl agreed and asked the guy to protect herself. He replied that he would try. When Jiangchan went outside, he could not understand where they had gone. We must urgently find them. He cannot allow them to pester the students. At the bend of the guy, he heard that someone asked to lag behind and called them villains. One of the guys asked to be a spinning and remains intact. You just need to follow them and they will not harm her. The girl asked to roll her lip because she would not go anywhere. The man replied that he was afraid to decide it. He gave the command to push her into the bag and send the boss. The girl began to scream, begging for help. The man exclaimed that she herself wanted to be so. The boss asked, wasn't it easy? He gave the team to his guys more likely to do this and leave here. Jiang Chan blocked their way and asked the guys to stop immediately. Then the boss asked who he was still like that and threw a despicable, evil look at him. The boy replied that it doesn't matter. The main thing is that they let go of the girls. The man asked who he imagined himself and said that he would not get into their deeds and they would not bother him then. Jiang Chan asked if he was so inquired that if he is now climbing into his affairs. The man replied that he did not know them, the famous gang of the White Tiger, and asked not to stand on their path. The boy replied that he first hears such nonsense about some tigers. The man was very angry with such insolence and told his guys to teach the kid a lesson. He gave the team to kill him and feed him the dogs. Then the boy squeezed his fists and asked who was worried about his gang. He asked them not to take a step back and waited for the opponent's attack. The guys immediately began to approach him faster and faster, but the first blow flew right into the jaw to the man. He began to throw out all the guys, hitting them with fists right along the physiognomy. When he went to karate, he made an oath not to apply the knowledge gained behind these walls. He brought the same oath when he received a higher education. And now a fist behind his fist flew into the faces of these villains. He scattered them one by one, and they fell hit against the wall and on the floor with his backs. One of the guys said that this boyfriend was too tough for them and advised to take their feet out of here. The boss replied that they would do it and asked him to help him get to his feet. He exclaimed with throwing a farewell look at Jiang Chan that they had not yet finished. They cross again and he will become cripple. But the boy replied that if he sees them here, and he himself would make cripples. Jiang Chun glanced at the bag in which the girl was already. It was Mayer. The girl exclaimed that she was very scared and began to cry. When the boy approached her, she rushed into his arms, all in tears. Jiang Chen began to reassure her and said that they were no longer here. He asked her not to cry differently to be sweet. Mayer continued to say that he did not even imagine how she was scared. A little more it would be pumped with drugs and sold. Everything is in order now, she is safe. He is nearby and will not allow her to harm her. Jiang Chung asked how these guys went to her. The girl explained that they were from the gang of the White Tiger. Once she crossed with their boss walking around the shops, and he called her on a date. And she refused him. The boy understood how it was. Mei thanked him that she had saved her. It cannot even imagine what could happen to her if he was not there. Jiang Chan asked her too close to him. He told the girl that these bandits have already left. She replied that it was by chance. Jiang Chan laughed and said that this is all trifles, and he did not mind. Let him hug him when he wants. He is not averse to lending himself to her. He already knows what she will stop at. Mei exclaimed that she asked him to be more serious, but he could not spend her home. After all, she is a little scared. The guy replied that, of course, he was conducting. After that, he took her hand. They went towards her house. Jiang Qing said that he was her guardian angel today. Mei said that she was very grateful to him for the salvation and for leaving her home. The boy replied that no problem, because this is a trifling business. Mei asked if he wanted to go to drink something. Jiang Chan replied that since she returned home so well, he no longer had worries. The girl thought that she was determined to invite him to enter, but he rejected her. What is the idiot of a large, big, stupid boob? And then the next day came. Jiang Chan approached a huge, high building. Jane called a friend fellow and said that she had heard about his exploits yesterday. The boy asked how she found out. The girl replied that of such a popular guy as he certainly found out. He translated his grandmother across the road, she would have found out. Rumors about his valiant affairs are already going throughout the school. Jiang Chan replied that he could not even do something good so as not to become famous. Jan said that she knew much more, his birthday, height, weight, and hobby. She even finds out when he begins to meet someone. The boy laughed immediately and replied that she was holding him on her fingertips. And he is trying to get ahead of everyone so that others are not taken away. Jan said that every girl knows these things at school. She just accidentally learned about everything from the students. Jiang Chan asked why they discuss this nonsense, and he does not understand this. It would be better to focus on study, and in general they are not supposed to know this. Jan explained that if they see their idol teacher, they can find out everything they want about him. Some even mentioned that he met with them as many as 5 times, and each of them threw him. She asked if this was true. Jiang Chung exclaimed that this is all a groan and there's no need to listen to them. How can you quit such a pretty guy like him? Jan looked down and said that she was looking as if he had become angry, and maybe they were still right. But the boy took his head with his hand and exclaimed that these were just rumors. The girl told him that she went to the lesson and let him let the steam alone. Jiang Chan closed his eyes and thought that the lesson was finally over. And these students are good in gossip. Suddenly, when he went outside, Miss Jiao appeared behind him. She began to run to him, stopping. Jiang Chung asked if he could help her with something. The girl explained that she was afraid that these bandits would come again. He wants to ask if he can take her home, because she is scared. He will not refuse her the truth, whether she says. Mei began to ask him again and ask him whether he would take her. The boy smiled and said that of course it would help. The girl exclaimed that it was just wonderful, and he helped her very much. Jiang Chung said that then it was necessary to go and he would call a taxi. Mr. Jiang quickly found a taxi for them to deliver Mei home safe and safety. While the guys were talking in front of the car, people from the White Tiger watched them. The men stood nearby, and the bald one immediately recognized the guy in Chen who beat his group last time. Joe did not want to hear anything and reminded his colleague that they should cope with such a trifling task. The interlocutor was alarmed by this news because their opponent was not so simple, and someone could stand behind him more influential than the tiger. Nevertheless, the close boss insisted on curbing a young man regardless of his strength. The bald one was forced to agree, and asked if they were going to the guy right away. Joe considered this question stupid and even hit his subordinate in the face. An approximate boss did not want to get involved in a fight with an experienced fighter without proper preparation. Therefore, men began to leave that, for starters would send the command to find out more data about Jiang. At this time, the former soldier looked around and caught himself thinking that he felt surveillance. The teacher began to get into the car and firmly decided that he would not allow the bandits to harm his Ms. Jiao. The taxi moved from the place, and Chan decided that it was time to talk to the girl about the incident. First of all, the guy was interested in whether Mai knew something about the White Tiger gang. At first, the beauty was surprised, but admitted that she knew that this gang obeys the tiger, and the bandits themselves were considered inhuman. She irritably told that many students suffered from their hands, as well as sellers of local stores are forced to pay the grouping money. This information was angry with the former soldier, and he could not believe that everyone simply reconciled with the lawmakers. Then Mei admitted that this happened, since the calls to the police caused only more troubles. Mr. Jiang confidentially informed his companion that he would definitely deal with her offenders and asked, if something happened, to call right away. The girl was embarrassed, but was sincerely grateful to the young guy for the concern. Behind their conversation, the road to the house of Madame Jiao flew unnoticed, although it was already dark on the street. As soon as the couple got out of the taxi, the young man noticed that they could get home without additional adventures. However, before going to the apartment, Mei wanted a colleague to promise her something. It turned out that the girl was afraid to return home alone after what had happened and hoped that Chung would be able to make her company. Before agreeing on an ongoing basis to accompany the lady, the former soldier wanted to know what he would receive in return. Madame Jiao embarrassedly asked what was interested in her hero, but he suggested that the teacher think on his own. Mei felt a hint and hastened to report that her body would not participate in their deal. Mr. Jiang, laughing, agreed to volunteer work and turned to go to his home. Several days have passed since that moment, and Chung, as promised, spent the beauty to the house after work. The teacher was very grateful for the help, although the former soldier considered it a trifle. As soon as they got to the house, Chung left again, forcing Mei not to understand why a colleague never asked for a visit. The members of the White Tiger gang watched the young man from afar, while the bald one said that they were in front of them. The man wanted to know from the approximate boss how they would deal with him after Jiang turned out to be an ordinary guy. Therefore, Zhu, with an evil smile, promised that they would expose the young man this evening. The group began to fulfill its plan as soon as night came in the city. A bald man was sent along with several dozen people to deal with Jiang. The group called out a former soldier, and their leader promised that they would not allow physical to leave so easily. Gangsters began to advance, hoping that they gained superiority due to their number. However, Chan met them with a wide smile, rejoicing that he did not have to look for bandits for a long time. The bald one was sure that their enemy was to boil, so he ordered the guys to attack everyone together. The former soldier brought a fist to strike, noting the naivety of his rivals, who could not sensibly assess his strength. In a matter of seconds, the young man disabled one gangster after another without making special efforts. The leader watched how his people fly apart and began to doubt that Chen Man. A couple of minutes passed since the start of the fight, but absolutely all members of the White Tiger could no longer fight. Looking around the battlefield, Mr. Jiang noticed a bald, who was the last to meet his fate. The teacher quickly approached the last member of the gang and held out his hand to grab the opponent by the collar. The bald one was trembling with fear and praying to the young guy to spare his life and allow him to leave. Chan did not see a single reason because of which the leader should release, but he promised to give in return information. Of course, at first it angered Mr. Jiang, because he thought that all this was an empty chatter. But the member of the group was sincerely scared and swore that the former soldier really had to know something. The bald one muttered that the teacher should save the girl because his brother Ju would grab her soon. Chan realized that he had too little time and still hit the leader of the attackers. The man was thrown back and he rolled along the asphalt several meters. At this time, Jiang did not lose time and ran to the house mayor, hoping to be in time. The night streets of the city were deserted, and only in a few windows the light burned. Members of the White Tiger gang held Zhao's wrists and led her to the boss under the supervision of Ju. The guys were interested in how the rest of the brothers were doing, but they did not think that it was worth worrying. However, just at that moment, a scream of Zina, who demanded to release the teacher, was heard behind their backs. The young man did not talk to the gangsters and immediately attacked the close boss. With the help of one kick, the former soldier led the commander of the group, and then he switched to the rest, trying to free the hostage as soon as possible. The physical education teacher had amazing wrestling skills, so a bunch of criminals did not become a problem. The gangsters did not even have time to understand anything, really how they received injuries, after which they could not fight further. Watching what was happening, Ju realized that even 30 people could not cope with the power of Chan. Everyone who survived the duel realized that it was time for them to retreat, and even the close boss did not argue with it. The former soldier followed them, because he did not believe that they received a rather intelligible lesson. But Madame Zhao rushed after, clinging to the back of her hero and begged him not to leave. Jiang perfectly understood that the girl was scared, so he stayed to reassure her colleague. A few minutes passed, but Mayer continued to cry, so Chen thought that it was worth discharging the situation. The former soldier did not come up with anything better than a stupid joke about his attractiveness, which made Zhao let drool at him. However, the teacher was still too alarmed and was going to let go of the only defender. The young man was worried later than the time of the day, because of which their arms could not be understood. Then Mei pulled away and hopefully invited Jiang to stay in her apartment tonight. The former soldier behaved noble and promised that he would go with a girl to look after her. Thus, they reluctantly interrupted their hugs and headed to Zhao's apartment. Chan carefully patted the girl on the shoulder and said that she should have a good rest. The brown-haired woman touched the man's wrist, suggesting that he was going to slip away as soon as she falls asleep. Jiang admitted that he could stay overnight and even tried to ask for the bed to Mei. However, the girl snorted and shook her head, stating that a colleague could not even dream of it. However, Chan did not embarrass this fact, since they two really had to go to bed. The physical education teacher headed for the guest, while Zhao thought that she was feeling safe with him. The next day it was time to return to school, and the guys slowly went there together. The brown-haired woman decided to ask her friend to always walk with her, and Zhang agreed, promising to soon deal with the gang. The girl caught fire with enthusiasm, clarifying whether the physicist would really accompany her daily and also spend the night. The young man was embarrassed because his plans did not include a constant night on the couch. However, it seemed that Mei was very worried that the bandits would appear at her house again, so the young man agreed. On this note, they said goodbye, and the former soldier promised that he would not forget his promise. Chan did not have the first lesson, so he slowly trampled on empty school corridors. Suddenly, someone's voice called him, forcing the teacher to stop and look towards the sound. Miss Hu stopped nearby and hastened to ask if it was true that he and Mrs. Zhao are meeting. The girl talked about the fact that everyone at school only talks about this recently. Chan sighed heavily, accusing his popularity, and asked why the woman was at all concerned. The young man suggested that Miss Hu was in love with him, and she began to actively deny, hiding behind the fact that he simply likes to chat. They came to the fact that the girl was just having fun, so the brunette demanded to lay out the truth. The former soldier did not understand why he should tell any details of his personal life, and he recalled that Hu is not his girlfriend, which means that, and asking such questions has no right. However, Fizruk agreed to tell if the brunette agrees to become his couple. At first, Miss Ho froze in amazement, but quickly pulled herself together and stated that she was not interested. Mr. Jiang admitted that he feels notes of envy in her voice, which greatly angered a colleague. She wanted to leave as soon as possible, so she said that she had met with the director and found out that she was looking for Chan. The former soldier remained in a difficult situation, realizing that his mother could also hear rumors. The weather on this day was beautiful, and the sun's rays flooded the school building with light. Nevertheless, the guy did not avoid the meeting and went straight to the director's office. As soon as he sat opposite the woman, she admitted that she really heard rumors. This was not surprising, since nothing within the walls of the school could slip away from her attention. Mom asked how things were, and Chan excitedly asked not to worry about his personal life. However, the young man understood that the parent was simply worried about him, so he asked her not to worry much. The director nodded, but remembered that last night Jiang never appeared at home. For a second, the guy froze, shocked, not understanding how his mother could find out about it. However, everything fell into place when the woman told how she talked with her sister about this. The director of the director did not disappear in the appearance of his son in May, so Chan had to quickly invent something. He agreed that yesterday he did not spend the night at home, causing his mother thought that he was already close to Jiao. Therefore, the former soldier had to lie that he had met a friend who was sitting and spent the night. This news upset the director, because she believed that her son was finally lucky, which greatly embarrassed the guy. The blonde believed that Chung should grab on his chance and ask if something was needed. Mr. Jiang was grateful for the help, but promised that he could cope with everything on his own. The young man got up from his place and was ready to go to the teacher's room, if the director did not need anything else. The director promised to provide any help, if only his son had a wife. However, Chan went out into the corridor. He heard a loud cry of one of the beauties of the school. The former soldier recognized Chiu Sim and saw that some guy was actively pestering her. Jing tried to grab the girl by the hands and invited to dinner, not paying attention to the teacher's request to lag behind her. Mr. Jiang hastened to intervene in the dispute, turning show on himself and asking what was happening. At first, the man was unhappy that he was interrupted, but was frightened when he saw Chan in front of him. Chu escaped from the grip of the arrogant man and rushed to the physical man, begging him for help. Jing tried to make excuses that he did not mole up to miss, but simply tried to invite her to dinner. Immediately after that, the man hastened to turn around to leave the field of Zhang's vision. Nevertheless, a physical education teacher still threatened that it would turn out with it in the event of a repetition of the incident. The man laughed nervously and promised that he understood everything because he really wanted to leave. However, Chung was in no hurry to let go of Shou, thinking that he could have information about the bandits. Mr. Jiang gave his face an awesome look and asked if Jing knew about the White Tiger Gang. The colleague began to look even more concerned and tried to avoid a direct answer. But the former soldier did not allow this to happen, and the man had to tell that he usually saw them in several places. Most of all, Chan was interested in the underground casino, so he asked how to get into him. Teacher Shou was not sure that he should have issued such information, but the fear of a Fizrusian was stronger. Mr. Jing decided that he could benefit and offered to escort him there if the physical instructor would work for him. The former soldier naturally did not suit this, and he released the threatening aura. Teacher Shou panicked and immediately retreated, shouting that he would tell everything without any services. The man remembered that the casino of the gang of the White Tiger was in the basement next to the bar. He also said that the entrance is guarded by guards who do not let anyone in. This satisfied the curiosity of Chan, but he decided to finally find out if the boss, Bo Tiger Teacher, knew. The colleague admitted that he heard a lot about him, but personally, he was seen only by close associates, while Mr. Jing assured that he was simply having fun in the casino from time to time. Fizruk was not sure that this could be trusted, but the man looked truly scared. Then the former soldier allowed the shit finally escaping, ordering Chu to no longer disturb. Mr. Jing accepted the fact that Sim Girl Chan promised that he would not even think about her. Such an assumption was embarrassed by a couple, but none of them began to deny this fact. Miss Chu hastened to thank Jiang for help and offered to treat him with dinner as a sign of gratitude. The former soldier remembered that he promised to take Mei Er home, so he was forced to refuse and asked to postpone the meeting the next day. Fortunately, this did not mind, provided that the young man would not forget about his promise. The rest of the working day passed without special adventures, and soon the time came to go home. Miss Ho also left the building when Chan Chan suddenly saw, accompanied by Madame Jiao. Jingwen decided to call out to Mr. Jiang, still remembering their morning conversation. The girl looked at a couple and reported that now she realized that the young man was hiding from her. The teacher translated her attention to Mei and demanded to answer how long they meet. Sean embarrassedly stuck into the conversation, trying to convince Miss Ho that the rumors had misled her. But the woman was sure that she saw everything with her own eyes, so she asked to tell the truth. However, since the couple was silent, Jingwen decided to leave them alone, reminding the former soldier of the promise. After that, Miss Ho went about her business, leaving her colleagues in confusion. The girl's behavior was quite indicative, and now Mr. Jiang had no doubt that she was jealous. At this time, Mei was more interested in the promise that their colleague spoke about. When Madame Zhao asked about this, Chan again saw the subtext in the words of Miss Ho. Nevertheless, he asked the girl not to think about it too much because they were just about to go camping. The former soldier looked at his companion and asked if this news was worried about her. Mei was nervous and said that they were just friends, so Mr. Jiang is free to do what she wanted. However, the young man did not believe her and admitted that he felt that she was not negotiating something. Madame Zhao rolled her eyes and noted upset that her colleague was too narcissistic. However, despite this, the beauty asked to go with them, justifying himself that she was afraid to be alone. The former soldier was in no hurry to answer, thinking about whether Mei would take with him Normal. The girl saw doubts about the eyes of a young man and promised that she would not bother them. In the end, Chung decided that nothing terrible would happen and agreed to go together. Madame Jiao was so glad of this news that she rushed to hug her hero. Thus, the next morning the weekend came and Miss Ho waited for a friend at the bus stop. She was a little nervous because Chan was nowhere, although they were already beginning to be late. The first girl was noticed by Mei who loudly called a colleague by name. Then Jingwen saw that Mr. Jiang had brought Zhao with him and asked if they had really spent the night. The brown-haired woman hastened to defend her hero and admitted that she herself had embarked on a campaign behind them. Miss Ho did not consider this a problem, because the more people, the more fun, although she was embarrassed by the appearance of a couple together. Mayor Solgal that they accidentally met along the way, and Chan realized that he could not withstand more than one girl. Mr. Zhang decided to intervene before friends began to quarrel and hastened to offer them to take the bus. Miss Zhao grabbed the brunette by the hand and they hurried inside to take neighboring places. The former soldier exhaled with relief and mentally scolded the unpredictability of women. The trip turned out to be calm, but unfortunately, by the time of their arrival, it began to rain. Miss Ho, along with the rest, decided that it would be better to go to the hotel. The town near the mountains was not too big, which allowed them to quickly find a hotel. However, due to weather conditions, there was only one free room in the hotel. The girls were upset because there were no more hotels in the district, and the rain forced them to accept at least one room. Thus, the group was in a small bedroom in confusion, looking at the only double bed. Mr. Jiang was the first to voice an obvious fact, and embarrassedly asked if he could sleep between the girls. The brown-haired woman was too embarrassed by such a prospect and cried out that this would not happen. Miss Ho reacted in the same way and ordered the guy to look for a mattress and sleep by the bed. The former soldier realized that he had no particular choice and was about to take an additional sleeping place in the reception. The young man reached for the phone and dialed the administration number, wanting to resolve the issue, rather. They answered quickly to the call, but it turned out that there were no more free mattresses. Mr. Jiang returned to the girls and disappointedly admitted that he would have to sleep on the bare floor. Jingwen could not allow Chan because the room was cold and damp. That is why Mei agreed with her friend, and they decided to let the young man sleep on the bed. However, the girls did not want to give their sides of the bed, so it was decided to allow Jiang to sleep in the middle. Naturally, the beauties did not forget to remind you that Fizruk did not allow himself any vulgarities. Thus, the guys were in the same bed, falling asleep so that everyone had enough space. And everything would be fine, but in the middle of the night, Mei turned to the young man and pressed against him. Soon Jingwen also shifted closer to Mr. Jiang and acquired a young man. The former soldier was embarrassed by such a state of affairs, but tried to restrain inappropriate thoughts. The next morning came, and this time the weather was more suitable for the campaign. Miss wanted to wake up and began to look around the number, trying to understand where everyone else. The girl was outraged that Chung left her, although he promised to devote her free time to her. The brunette rose from the bed and, staying in the nightshirt, went in search of colleagues. The couple was found in the corridor, and from afar it was the impression that Mei flirts with Jiang. This fact was angry with Jingwen, although she tried to force herself to calm down. This was given to her with difficulty, and fists clenched thin fabric on the edges of pajamas by themselves. Madame Ho slowly began to move towards the couple without attracting attention to herself. Only when the brunette came close to the guys, she noticed that they had come quite early. Mei said that they did not wake her friend because Wen was sleeping sweetly, and Mr. Jiang was glad to tell Miss Ho about beautiful weather and corrected her to gather on a campaign. The couple enjoyed a walk when suddenly Mrs. Zhao screamed that she was tired and asked to take a break. The brown-haired woman reminded that her physical form was not so good, so she could not go too fast. The former soldier looked at the beauty with displeasure and recalled that he warned that this could happen. Mei tried to convince friends that she was not complaining but simply asks to move a little slower. However, Wen should have noticed that in this case they would get to the top to the darkness, and they would have to spend the night in the mountains. Madame Zhao did not want this, so she immediately accelerated and ran forward. Thanks to this, they found themselves at the top enough and enthusiastically watched the views. Mei had never climbed to the top before, so the beauty surrounding them was most surprised. The former soldier reminded the brown-haired man that the more difficult the work, the more reward. Madame Zhao appreciated the level of education of Chung, after which the young man suggested taking pictures of the girls. Friends began to pose on top, and the young man managed to take several good photos. As soon as they finished, the guy recalled that it was time for them to return, so as not to be late for work. Mei was inspired by their campaign, and admitted that she would be happy to leave them again. Mr. Jiang did not consider this a good idea because he was pretty tired of two girls. Nevertheless, they reached the house without incident, and Monday soon came. On this day, Chan did not plan to do classes, so he was going to check the gang of the tiger. He did not take much time to catch a taxi and ask him to take him to KTV-0. Soon the driver dropped him off the desired building, and the former soldier hastened to look around. According to the teacher, the gambling was supposed to be somewhere nearby. The young man walked forward and soon came across two men who resembled the guards. This prompted him to the idea that it was in this place that the underground casino of the White Tiger was located. Next to the KTV-0, the battered gates were located, in which two large men stood. They rather aggressively reacted to the appearance of Chan and advised him to stay away from the warehouse. The former soldier gave his face a frustrated look and said that he remembered exactly that there was a gambling house below. A member of the gang did not believe Mr. Jiang and said that there was only an abandoned warehouse behind them. The young man was not at a loss and turned around to leave, saying that Jing Shou is an ordinary deceiver. The guards recognized the name of one of their guests and immediately changed in the person, apologizing for their behavior. The man said that Chan immediately had to say that he was invited and led the guy behind him. The iron gate opened, passing the former soldier into the territory of the gang of the White Tiger. The guards remained to guard from the outside and promised that it was always safe in their underground casino. Mr. Jiang watched visitors, realizing that some of them carefully monitored the new ones. Chan suggested that before starting to act, he should go and play several rounds. The young man chose the first gambling game and set several bets, participating in a small competition. The former soldier watched the throws of bones and earned more and more money. Mr. Jiang loved to take risks, so he easily improved bets. Besides, he had an advantage. Chan possessed the ideal hearing that he helped him determine with what force the bones were thrown. At this time, the boss of the gang of White Tigers was in the KTV-0 discussing some points with close associates. Most of all, the chapter was not satisfied with the fact that Ju never led him to him. The man could not understand why his people could not cope with one unhappy enemy. The boss of the White Tiger considered Ju a useless waste of time and was about to throw him out of the room. Brother Ho cooled the ardor of the leader, admitting that she had heard that Chan was really quite cool. The man actively bowed and begged the tiger to give him another chance to prove his usefulness. The gang boss did not like this, but he decided that he could let go of Ju for his brother Ho. The close leader barely restrained panic, but sincerely thanked the tiger. Mr. Once went to a friend and found out that Chen is an ordinary teacher who was able to lay more than 30 of their guys. The man thought a little, and then he offered the boss his candidacy in order to look at this guy. The leader allowed his brother to go on a mission, recalling not to forget about the debt. Mr. Ho promised that he would not deliver problems and simply see what the physical instructor is like. Ju stood behind a man and, with a joyful smile, thanked him for his help. The close boss was sure that Chen would be useless against the brown-haired man. Brother Ho lit a cigarette and promised that they would show him that they should not play with the gang of the White Tiger. By this time, Mr. Jiang managed to make several bets and walled in confidence in the casino regulars. The young man boasted that he won $1 million and said that he was going to visit the girls. The head of the institution wanted to persuade Chan to stay a couple of rounds, but the young man insisted on a fun of a different kind. In addition, Fizruk said that he would come tomorrow, so the leader allowed the winner to relax a bit. The former soldier pretended to be very interested in visiting the KTV-0. Thanks to this, the head of the casino was glad to report that his brothers outside would be withdrawn there a new guest. As soon as Chan headed for the exit, another member of the gang asked why they allow a person to leave with such a win. However, the leader recalled that the master of Jing called so they could let the young man enjoy a little. The man was sure that Mr. Jiang would definitely return, and then they would force him to pay. The former soldier left the underground casino with a suitcase of money, and the guards noticed that he was quickly leaving. The young man took out a small amount and gave the bodyguards tips as a sign of gratitude that they had let him in. Young guys were happy to get a rather large amount, and Chung had fun with them. Mr. Jiang admitted that he was going to go into a frolic with girls in KTV-0. The guys were not against holding a generous client to the right place and reacted to Chan's request with enthusiasm. The institution known in their circles was very close, which allowed bodyguards to leave the workplace. On the way, the guys talked about the fact that they often went to this place to relax. There were many girls inside them, and the gang members allowed Mr. Jian to any beauty. The former soldier noted that all of them are far from the goddesses of the school, but he needed to choose someone in order to get information. In the end, the young man chose a pretty lady in a yellow dress. The guards, crowded with enthusiasm, allowed a new friend to retire with a beauty. The employee of the institution approached Mr. Jiang and asked what he wanted from her. Chan sat on one of the sofas and called the girl behind him, offering her a little drink. First of all, the former soldier was convinced that a safe atmosphere reigns in the bar. The young man asked the employees if anyone does not come to be registered. The stranger admitted that they are owned by the gang, so they are always led during a showdown. Mr. Jiang got closer in the hope of finding out how many girls work in this place. The lady said that there were more than 100, and Chan began to worry about how many of them they forced to do this. The time has come for the main question, because the soldier came to find out if the boss Tigrov can be in the bar. The employee confidentially said that a man has her own room in which 8 girls play with her. After that, Mr. Jiang realized that he would not know anything else and gave the lady a large amount of tips. The happy worker remained in the room to recount the money earned and asked the client to come again. The physical education teacher was in a hurry to the school building because he knew that Mei would wait for him to go home. Miss Zhao wanted to know where her colleague went because for the whole day she never saw him in the office. The girl even thought that Chung abandoned her, but the guy convinced her friend that he was just going to settle some things. In addition, the former soldier said that he would have to return home, and the beauty wanted to go with him. The brown-haired woman again reminded that she was scared to be at home when the bandits can appear at any time. Mr. Jiang understood that she was right and thought about what they should do in this situation. In the end, he admitted that Mei could go with him if he is not afraid to get to know his parents. Miss Zhao pouted and could not understand why she was to meet her parents when she goes to visit her colleague. The former soldier decided that they could leave the brown-haired woman in the hotel while Chan was going about his business. On this, they began to leave the school territory, and Mr. Jiang promised to never leave his friend. The young man was brought by Mei to a 5-star hotel in the middle of the city, in which there was a good guard. Fizruk led the girl to her number and asked his colleague not to go anywhere until he returned. Before leaving, Chung was convinced that the teacher would call him in case of danger. The brown-haired woman watched her hero leaves and thought about what she could really like. Toward evening, the former soldier was finally able to get to the residence of the Jiang family. The young man gained courage because he understood that he would have to tell Dad about the white tiger. As soon as Chan opened the door to his father's room, he heard that his parent was scolding his younger sister. The young lady listened to how Dad warns of punishment in the event of a recall from the teacher. But as soon as she noticed her brother, she realized that she could save himself, telling that he was not at home at night. The girl hastened to leave the room, allowing her father to completely switch her attention to her son. The young man was devoted to his own sister, because the man really immediately switched to Chan's personal life. The former soldier with a sweet smile asked his parent to talk about this later, referring to an important matter. The young man hastened to report that he was faced with a gang from which he wanted to get rid of the good of society. Father was ready to help with the case, although he did not understand why the guy simply did not write a statement to the police. Then the former soldier admitted that the traitor wound up in law enforcement. Such news upset the man, and he wanted to know what his son was going to do. The physical education teacher asked him to allocate people from the special forces so that no one would recognize. Thus, Chen could again feel like an army man and feel in an important mission. The next day, Mr. Jiang spent Maier to school and was going to share a joyful news with her. The guy promised that from that moment, Miss Zhao may not be afraid of the Tiger Group. Fizruk admitted that he could not say details, but stated that today to take care of the bandits. The brown-haired woman asked a friend to be careful, and Chen promised to return to the end of the working day. The girl watched her hero and sincerely hoped that everything would be in order with him. At the same time, a small group of a gang of White Tiger watched a couple. Brother Ho watched the teacher of physical education and could not believe that he alone coped with 30 opponents. Mr. Jiang looked like an ordinary loser, and the man even thought that Zhu decided to joke over him. However, the approximate boss promised that Chen is stronger than it seemed, therefore, the group hurried after. The former soldier quickly noticed that a small crowd was moving behind him. Zhou and the rest held behind, gloomily glancing at a dangerous enemy. Mr. Ho took out a knife and confidently went to Chan, promising to make him regret that he had contacted their gang. In response to this, the young man grinned, because none of the group was good enough, like an opponent for him. The man broke off and ran into the attack, wanting to check what the praised physical car is capable of. Mr. Jiang prepared to get into a fight, although he admitted that he did not think that the brunette would succeed. The former soldier attacked the first, but the brother of Ho managed to put the block. Moreover, the man stood well against him, which deserved a little respect for Chan. Despite the fact that the bandit was not so easy to confront the teacher, he tried not to give a look. Brother Ho again brought a dagger and rushed into battle with shouts that he would destroy the enemy. However, before the member of the gang of the White Tiger managed to bring the blade close enough, he missed the blow to the course. Cold weapons flew out of the hand of the brunette, and he himself flew into the crowd of his guys. Mr. Jiang grinned smugly and asked that they really think that for the second time he would let them go. Zhou excitedly grabbed his brother Ho, but the man wanted the others to attack Chan. The members of the group did not dare to disobey the commander and ran to the attack. The former soldier informed them that they were all so weak that even together they would not be able to cause him inconvenience. A fight began in which all those present participated at once, but this did not give them much advantage. After a couple of minutes, all of them lay on the floor, having been injured in various severity, but no one could continue the battle. Chan expressed his disappointment because the gangsters had enough just a few light blows. Nevertheless, this only played into the hands of Mr. Jiang as the young man was in a hurry. He remembered that support had to drive up when suddenly a black minibus appeared next to them. The car stopped next to the physical education teacher, and a man in uniform got out of there. Chung glanced briefly at the newly arrived men and realized that his assistants had finally appeared. A group of armed people built in a line and advanced on members of the White Tiger group. Brother Ho was shocked by the appearance of special forces and scaredly crawled back. The commander of the detachment gave the order to his guys to arrest everyone who lies on the floor. Special forces quickly coped with the task, and the first part of the gang was neutralized. Captain Ma appeared before the former soldier in anticipation of further instructions. The physical education teacher saluted and ordered to follow the gangsters and not allow any of them to leave. The sparkles of anger flashed in Mr. Jiang's gaze when he thought that he would soon come for a White Tiger. The former soldier with his new team stopped near the two main objects of the gang. Chan knew that the White Tiger is most often in one of the places, so he proposed to divide. The physical education teacher said that he could take care of the guard dogs so that the special forces could get inside the underground casino. At this time, the first team was supposed to go to the KTV and arrest everyone who was wanted. The rest of the group was supposed to follow Mr. Jiang in the casino. And since none of the soldiers had questions, they hastened to begin to fulfill the mission. The first to leave the minibus was Chan, who headed for familiar guards of the gaming house. The guys cheerfully greeted a new friend, rejoicing in seeing the generous client again. The physical education teacher lied that he liked to relax with them and asked him to open the door to him. The guys listened and, without unnecessary questions and carefulness, turned to open the gate. However, as soon as this happened, their faces met with the fists of the former soldier. Both guards immediately lost consciousness and their bodies fell limp on the road. Then Mr. Jiang turned to the minibus and called on the special forces to follow him. The car door opened and armed men left the shelter one by one. Their group consisted of 5 people, so they were able to quickly be in the right place, remaining unnoticed. Chan ordered 3 guys to go through a spare entrance and to control the rest of the reserve. Before the mission, the former soldier recalled that their main goal is to catch all the gang members, especially the boss. The first group coped with its task, but one guy managed to slip away from them. The young man hurried to the boss's room to report that special forces burst into them. The leader approached the young man, not understanding why the mole did not inform them about it. Nevertheless, there was no time for conversations, so the White Tiger hurried deep into the corridor. He called a young follower behind him so that they could hide together through a secret tunnel. The boss moved the picture and a small closet drove aside, revealing the bandits the path to salvation. At this time, the rest of the group members were already chained into handcuffs and were carefully controlled by soldiers. Mr. Jiang actively looked around but could not find a boss. Suspicions began to creep into him that the man could escape, so he ran to explore the bar. Soon the young man discovered a secret tunnel and realized that the leader of the group was really lucky. Captain Ma found a former soldier and reported that they, just in case, cordoned off the perimeter. Chan was angry and upset, because their mission was fulfilled only half due to the escape of the tiger. The captain tried to convince the teacher that everything was not so bad since they eliminated his entire gang. The young man was full of the desire to catch the tiger as quickly as possible to put the end to the mission. Ma promised to add upstairs about what happened in order to take all the necessary measures to capture the leader. Despite his disappointment, Chan was glad that the threat of the group disappeared. The young man was able to get to school only in the late evening, when the working day has long come to an end. There he was met by Mei who thought they would go to the hotel again, but the guy told her that she was no longer afraid to be afraid. The girl was alarmed, not understanding what was happening, and reminded that the gang knew where her house was. The former soldier understood the fears of the beauty, but promised that gangsters would no longer bother her. The physical education teacher said that the white tiger was eliminated, and from that moment Mei can live without fear. It was difficult to believe the brown-haired woman in the fact that someone managed to eliminate a powerful gang. Mr. Jiang smiled broadly and did not tell the details of this matter. Nevertheless, he agreed to spend the teacher home and suggested checking his words on the internet. The goddess immediately took out her phone and began to look for information about the criminal group. The very first was to give her information that the special forces eliminated the largest gang in the city. Madame Jiao was shocked by this news and could barely realize the veracity of what was happening. She felt confusion and suspected that it was Chen who was involved in the collapse of a huge gang. Then Fizruk admitted that he used to work in the army, which allowed him to easily deal with such troubles. Mei accepted this, although she was alerted by how quickly the young man managed to destroy the bandits. Mr. Jiang again recalled that the brown-haired woman could discard anxiety and return home. However, the goddess still worried about the fact that the leader is free and wanted the young man to spend her home. The former soldier did not refuse the teacher, and they began another joint walk. By the time the couple got to the desired high-rise building around it was already dark. Chung stopped in a familiar place and was going to leave with a sense of duty. Mei did not even have time to even really understand what was happening when the teacher was already out of sight. The goddess did not understand why the young man never showed the initiative to stay, and she was angry. Soon, Mr. Jiang reached his house, noting that light was on in his father's office. When Chan went inside, he heard his laughter and hoped that he could get a return to the army. The joyful man went to his son and said that they found drugs in the White Tiger's shelter. The former soldier with hope asked if he could return to the service as a reward. However, Dad reminded him that at first he should fulfill the order of his grandfather. The physical education teacher thought that creating a family is much more difficult than destroying the gang. At this time, at the other end of the city, the leader of the White Tiger returned to the place where their possessions used to be. The man did not understand why such a dangerous place was chosen for the meeting and turned around in fright when he heard his nickname. The leader rushed to meet Boss Sky and begged him to help him get out of trouble. The gangster looked menacingly at his subordinate and wanted to know where the thing that was entrusted with Tiger. A full man panicked and admitted that he had given her Ho, but he was seized like a cash. Boss Sky received confirmation that things were lost and no longer listened to the leader of the leader. A pure anger was displayed on his face when the bandit wanted to know why the special forces came to their possessions. Around the former underground casino, it was dark and quiet. Only gangsters discussed their affairs. The leader of the White Tiger admitted that he knew nothing about special forces and did not even have time to see them, because he tried to escape. Mr. Sky was convinced that when a full man was running away, he did not leave his traces. The tiger tried to convince the ally to help him return everything, despite the fact that the police were on his tail. The leader reminded Sky that if he was caught, then the ally may also have troubles. It turned out that this is why the man came to the meeting, because he was not going to let the Coops get to the tiger. Boss Sky admitted that he does not want trouble, so he would eliminate them before they happen. The subordinates grabbed the resisting man, and authority ordered to make it seem to be hanging. The tiger was desperately bursting and begging him to take pity on him and offer help instead of death. The next day, the time has come for classes, and the teachers returned to the territory of the school. The first person whom Chan met was Mei who joyfully informed his friend that the tiger was dead. The former soldier was surprised because he was sure that the leader would never do that. This prompted him to the idea that Boss helped to die, but he did not talk about this Miss Jiao. The young man noticed that now a girl could not worry about her safety, but something told him that she wanted to walk with him further. However, Mei recalled that it was the physical education teacher that destroyed the gang and became its personal superhero. The former soldier agreed that he risked his life not for the sake of simple thank you. The beauty asked what Chung wanted, and the guy hinted that he earned practical classes. The goddess looked interested at the young man, then embarrassed him because he did not understand what was wrong. The brown-haired woman did not answer, instead pressed against the teacher, saying that she could not thank the savior. After that, she raised herself on her socks and, overcoming her own embarrassment, kissed Mr. Jiang on the cheek. The girl looked at Chan with her most trusting look and invited him to accept such a reward. The physical education teacher did not have time to answer anything, as the embarrassed Mei hastened to escape. But a light smile appeared on the face of a former soldier, and he thought that Jiao smells pleasantly. In the evening of the same day, the young man met with his parents in the living room to discuss the news about the death of the tiger. Father agreed that someone helped the leader to die, but offered to wait until the guilty made a mistake. Their conversation was interrupted by their mother, who offered to talk about the case, and not dead people. In the end, they were interested in how their son was doing to make grandfather happy. The woman told Chan that all girls like sweet conversations and romance. The blonde worried that over the years of service, the guy completely forgot how to care for the opposite sex. Father saw his son's doubts, but confidentially suggested that mom simply allow her to take care of everything. The former soldier sighed heavily, realizing that if a woman intervenes, then everything will not be so simple. The next day, the director decided to start fulfilling his ingenious plan. First of all, Chan's mother found Tenai Madame Zhao on the territory of the school and attracted her attention. The director spoke that she had heard rumors that Mei and physical education teacher were quite close. At this time, the brown-haired woman felt as if he was talking with a parent worried about her child. The woman noticed the excitement of the teacher and hastened to reassure her, attributing her questions for curiosity. The school goddess said that it all started with the fact that Mr. Jiang helped her cope with troubles. The director promised that she was not going to scold Mei for gossip, admitting that she would be glad if they were true. The blonde began to actively praise her son as a faithful, strong partner. Chan's mother tried to convince Miss Jiao that you should not miss a man with such qualities. And this forced the goddess to ask about Jiang's family and irritably noticed that he did not tell her anything. Madge was not going to give out the secrets of the former soldier, so she assured the lady that he certainly had no girlfriend. In addition, she informed Mei that a physical education teacher does not know how to communicate with the ladies. On this note, the director finished the conversation, allowing the brown-haired man to think over all her words. A little later on the same day, it was the turn of the next applicant to discuss partnership with her son. Jingwen appeared in the office, because she was informed that the school principal called her to her. The blonde asked Miss Ho to sit down and asked how the teacher Jiang was talking to. The girl was embarrassed and began to say that the guy is very sweet, capable, and pretty. The woman asked if he liked Jing Wei, which made the teacher try to pull herself together. Chan's mother gently noticed that it was Miss Ko that to be in the same office with Jiang, but he was close to Mei. One of the goddesses was noticeably sad, but admitted that a pretty good couple would come out of colleagues. The director decided to encourage Jingwen to be overcome for the attention of the former soldier. The blonde reminded that it was Miss who had more advantages, since they are in the same office. The woman invited the brunette to invite physical education teachers to the holiday and try to get closer. The embarrassed Jingwen seriously thought about this, although it was surprised that the director called her only to talk about it. Chan's mother smiled softly and lied that she just thought they would be a good couple. One of the goddesses promised to think about the director's proposal and left the office. As soon as the girl left the room, the woman called her secretary. Thus soon Madame Cho came to her, who was also embarrassed by the question of Jiang. Following her came the turn of the conversation with Fiona to encourage the goddesses to begin to act. A school day flew at this pace, and by the end of her working time, the blonde managed to fulfill the plan. Chan's mother stretched tiredly at her table, rejoicing at what she had talked with 4 goddesses. The woman was sure that her contribution would turn out to be successful, and now she believed that her son would definitely succeed. The end of the working day came up, and the physical education teacher went to his office in empty corridors. The former soldier was happy that the classes were over and planned to go home as soon as possible. In his office, the young man came across Miss Ho and noticed that she was clearly thinking about something since she did not notice his appearance. The brunette scaredly turned to the guy and hastened to ask if he was busy on this Sunday. Mr. Jiang did not have time to answer anything, as Maier unexpectedly appeared in their office. One of the goddesses smiled brightly and said that she wanted to invite Chung to dinner to thank for help. Madame Jiao also wanted to meet at the coming weekend, which put the teacher in an uncomfortable situation. Fizruk turned to Miss Ho to find out why she asked about his plans for Sunday. Jingwen gained courage and admitted that she was going to treat his colleague with dinner. The brunette recalled that she asked the first, and Chan turned out to be between 2 lights, not knowing what to do. In the end, the man closed his eyes upset, realizing that one of the girls would be offended in any case. While the young man was thinking about what to do, another goddess appeared in the office. Miss Cho became for Mr. Jung the ray of hope, allowing a former soldier to dream of a change of topic. However, Sim also invited physical education teachers to go this weekend for dinner. The girl's proposal was outraged by the other two goddesses who replied that the guy was already busy. However, the teacher Cho did not pay attention to their words and waited until Mr. Jung himself answers her question. This gave rise to a dispute between teachers about who Chan to go to dinner on the weekend. Sim smiled brightly and reminded that they should listen to what their colleague wants. The situation in the office began to heated, and not one of the ladies was about to give up. The physical education teacher began to suspect that the girls specially agreed to come to him with an invitation to dinner. At that moment, the door to the office began to open again, letting the next guest into the room. This time it turned out to be Fiona, who embarrassedly called Mr. Jiang to tell him something. Chung looked uncertainly at the fourth girl with fear of interest that she wanted from him. The goddess was no exception, and also called the former soldier to go with her for dinner. The physical education teacher ceased to understand what was happening and panicked, not understanding what to do. Fiona noticed the oblique glances of the rest of the goddesses and asked what was the matter. So she found out that they were all about to have dinner with a colleague this weekend. However, instead of starting to argue for who gets Chan, she suggested that everyone go together. Fiona smiled charmingly, wondering if there were objections, and the goddesses felt that they should agree. The girl winked at the assembled company and easily concluded that they were waiting for a joint walk. Mr. Jiang could not believe that the teachers agreed, but was grateful to Fiona for the solution of the situation. The former soldier officially stopped on this option, which satisfied everyone in the room. Therefore, they quickly decided that they would meet on Sunday at the school gate. When the appointed time came, Chan headed for school, thinking about why the girls did this. At the gate, the young man noticed four beauties and for a second was speechless with delight. The goddesses of the Tanaya school happily smiled at the teacher of physical education and looked just stunning. Mr. Jiang hastened to say this to the lady, after which he asked where they were going. The women said that they decided to go shopping for a start, and the former soldier did not argue with them. Girlfriends chatted cheerfully in front, leaving Chan in confusion to try to understand when they got along so well. Soon the company reached the city center, in which there were a huge number of boutiques. The teachers enjoyed the shopping, while still not understanding Mr. Jiang, they carried their bags. The goddesses almost did not pay attention to the young man, and he began to worry that he would become a hanger for bags. However, the young man did not express his dissatisfaction with the ladies, and patiently took out the rest of the shopping walk. Thus, they finally got to the part with dinner, on which the ladies continued to have fun. They happily discussed various dishes and together tried the new products recommended. After the meal was finished, Chung decided to ask if they can go home. Fiona turned to Mr. Jian and admitted that they would like to walk a little more. Friends began to discuss that they wanted to go to the KTV and did not even ask what their companion was thinking about it. By this time, the street was already quite dark and karaoke bar was popular. Nevertheless, the guys managed to occupy the room, but Fiona decided that it was boring to just sing. This prompted the girls to offer everyone together to play a bottle in order to have fun. Mei offered to play assignments, but asked to play honestly and follow the rules. Everyone agreed with the demands put forward, and Fiona first took a glass bottle. Tara spun on the table, forcing the rest of the players to carefully monitor her movements. The neck of the container pointed to the CHO sim, so she had the opportunity to ask any of them to complete the task. The goddess did not think for a long time and turned to Mr. Jian, who was surprised by such a turn of events. The teacher noticed that Chung is the only man in the group, so he was chosen. Sim playfully winked at the young man and ordered to portray an elephant and circled 10 times. Fizrook was embarrassed and did not really want to put himself on his laughingstock surrounded by lovely ladies. But Mrs. Klo insisted on fulfilling the rules of the game and cheerfully rushing the former soldier. Mr. G had no choice, so he clamped his nose, extended his hand, and began to spin. However, as soon as the young man was finished, he solemnly stated that his turn had come. Suspicious joy in Chan's voice made ladies worry, but they agreed to continue the game. Fizrook took a bottle and was going to use his tricks to take revenge on the fact that they dared to joke over it. The evening grew into the night, and the guys continued to have fun at the KTV bar, enjoying the evening. The play in the bottle continued, and the glass container quickly replaced her direction. Mr. Jiang barely touched the surface of the table so as not to attract the attention of girls. The neck pointed to him, and the young man grinned, rejoicing that his plan with the inclination of the table worked. Chung pretended to be thinking about who to choose, but the first victim was to be Cho Sim. The teacher was indignant at the fact that she was chosen and wanted to know the reason for this action. The former soldier laughed and recalled that the young lady gave him a task a couple of minutes ago. Mr. Jiang did not invent anything complicated, so Sim was obliged to pretend to be an elephant and twist. Mayer reached for a bottle and promised that this time Chan was not lucky. Glass containers spun in the center of the table, forcing all participants in the game to freeze in anticipation. The former soldier again used his trick and forced the neck of the bottle to stop in his direction. The four goddesses looked at what was happening, not understanding how possible. Chan tried to hide his excitement and decided to translate the topic on the one who would have to complete the task. The second victim was Madame Jiao, since it was she who spun the bottle. A marker appeared in the hand of a former soldier, and it was decided to draw a lady with a cat's face. Mei humbly put her face and allowed a colleague to draw a mustache on her man. The brown-haired woman promised to pay with Mr. Jiang, but he was confident in his subsequent success. From that moment, several more rounds have passed, and the girls did not understand how the physical school managed to win. By the end of the game, on the faces of all the goddesses, a cat's mustache were drawn, and they looked with interest at Chan. After a while, the young man rose from his evening and offered to stop there because he was tired of drawing. The annoyed girls agreed but promised that they would still force Mr. Jiang to pay. Before leaving, the former soldier advised the ladies to put themselves in order and prepare to go home. By this moment, it was quite noisy around the bar, and many guests left the institution. However, an expensive black car stopped next to the KTV, from which a group of guys got out. Boss Song and his minions were expected to find beautiful girls in a bar and spend an evening with them. Just at that moment, the young people came across four goddesses of the Tenai school. The guys decided that they wanted to get them to their company, so they headed towards the ladies. Boss Song grinned the beauties and offered to go with him so that he could treat the lady with a drink. The former soldier quickly realized that he would have to deal with the insolence, so he asked the girls to hide behind him. The young man did not see problems, continuing to advance and insist on the companies of the goddess. Mr. Jiang covered his companions and advised Suna to leave if he did not want trouble. The minions of the young boss with a mockery watched a man who dared to climb into his own business. The impudent young man did not want to quarrel, so he just suggested that Chan take a couple of hundred and go about his business. The physical education teacher was not going to accept the proposal, and with a challenge asked what would happen if he did not. A group of guys did not understand why the stranger refuses money and blocks the road to them. Song threatened Mr. Jiang that the last time he proposes to solve the issue peacefully. However, Chan was already tuned in to a fight and felt that he was obliged to show the young man how to spend time correctly. The former soldier took a step forward, and with one quick movement, grabbed the enemy by the neck. The young boss was recorded in the capture and cried that he was painful, but this did not cause sympathy for Chen. The minions of Suna were angry and hurried to the leader of the leader, demanding to let their brother go. The physical education teacher actually released the impudent, but at the same time he greatly kicked him back. The young man flew back, knocking down those who fled to his aid with his body. Four goddesses were delighted with his colleagues, and Mr. Jiang allowed them to enjoy the show. The first to come to her senses, who shouted with worriedly, warning about the threat. The former soldier saw that the three decided to attack him from behind, so he did not stand on ceremony with them. Sun was closer than the rest, so he was the first to receive a well-deserved blow with his elbow. The young boss lost his balance and again went to the floor, confused at the feet of his assistants. However, this did not become a problem, since Chen immediately after that neutralized the blonde. And finally, he struck a strong blow to the last of the group, reporting that he could always fulfill their desire to be beaten. The goddesses watched what was happening with interest, and Mayer especially liked to watch the hooligans fly off. The guys' bodies were covered with abrasions, and they could no longer continue the fight. Song promised that they would still avenge the physical education teacher, after which he urged their guys to escape. Madame Zhao began to worry, but the former soldier asked the girls not to think about empty threats. The young man sent the goddesses home, and the next day they, as if nothing had happened, came to school. Mr. Jiang met a brunette who accused the teacher of playing dishonestly yesterday. Jingwen could not say exactly how Chan did this, but was sure that his colleague was cheating. The former soldier looked away and nervously talked about how good the weather surrounded them. Such behavior confirmed the guesses of Miss Ho, although Fizruk himself refused to talk about deception directly. One of the goddesses was evil due to deception and said that now they were simply obliged to take revenge. The young man felt uncomfortable and tried to persuade the girl not to be angry in the middle of the school corridor. Nevertheless, Jingwen was not going to leave Mr. Jiang with unpunished. Chan watched how the lady was leaving and tried to understand where she was in a hurry so early in the morning. At this time, the brunette was heading to the office of Madame Jiao to tell the news. There she found the rest of the goddesses who were glad to see her friend, although they were wondering why she came. Jingwen did not postpone important information and admitted to the girls that Chen was stormy. It turned out that the teachers gathered together because they were also worried that Jiang was clouding. The girls looked at each other enthusiastically and began to discuss how they could take revenge on the liar. Ms. Ho was amazed, but quickly became a participant in the discussion of their plan. Shu and Mei believed that they were obliged to make nursing revenge on repayment for bullying. The brunette winked at her friends and offered to get into the office and put her forehead with a physical side. Fiona recalled how easy Chan figured out yesterday's hooligans. Madame Zhao resignedly remembered that they were too weak for this, but she still wanted to punish the guy. Jingwen grinned and reminded the naive ladies of the existence of water with Chile. Miss Ho reminded that they do not have to fight with Mr. Jiang to face with Mr. Jiang. The goddesses were inspired and remembered that they could use a pepper can and electric baton. The brown-haired woman passed to the last part of the plan, asking how to lure Chan. Jingwen was determined to detain the young man after school and release when no one was left. At this time, at the other end of the city, teachers also discussed in one of the high-rise buildings. People managed to find out who stood behind the fall of the gang of the White Tiger, and they came to tell about it. One of his subordinates reported on how Jiang Chung became those who defended his colleague and taught the gangster lesson. The boss lit a cigar and thought with interest that an ordinary teacher was able to play with the White Tiger. The minister suggested that the Special Forces group could also have something to do with Chan. They failed to unearth any details about the past of the teacher, but Sky believed that it was not important. The boss ordered his people to destroy the threat this evening, not even suspecting that he was not one. At the same time, Boss Song learned that his subordinates hired a detective to find out about the teacher. The young man was delighted to learn that his opponent was nothing, although he dared to contact him. The interlocutor also overwhelmed enthusiasm when he expected to hear how they would make the impudent regret his actions. Sun decided that it was worth hiring people more and send them to beat Chan. The subordinate asked to provide this task to him, and they both anticipated the upcoming evening. The working day of the physical education teacher has ended and the time has come to get home. The former soldier constantly felt goosebumps run over his skin and tried to understand who was offended by him. Before the young man managed to leave the school territory, Miss Ho ran up to him. Teacher Zhang asked what was the matter because he was about to go home. The brunette handed the colleague a folder with documents and asked him to help her deal with them. The man was not going to refuse one of the goddesses, and Jingwen was delighted that their plan was working. The couple sat in the office until night came, and there was not a single witness left around. Miss Ho looked for a while and thought that no one had to stay in the building. In addition, her accomplices had to be ready, so the girl offered to finish the work later. The former soldier was annoyed when he realized that they were in vain for the late, since the task was not urgent. Jingwen persuaded the young man not to be angry and actively shook him out the door. As soon as they left the school building, the brunette offered to treat the colleague with a drink as a gratitude. Mr. Jiang did not see the reasons to refuse treats, so he accepted the proposal. Miss Ho left a physical education teacher for a short time and returned with a bottle in her hands. Chung drew attention to the fact that the girl carefully watched him, but the lady dismissed his suspicions. The former soldier brought the neck to his mouth and prepared to drink a donated drink. A smug smile played on Jingwen's face when she realized that her trick worked. The next moment, the face of the physical education teacher blushed, and the remaining water was poured onto the floor. The young man looked at the bottle in shock, and, trying to catch his breath, asked why the water is so pierced. Miss Ho laughed a little at her colleague and admitted that she had done water with Chile specifically for the deceiver, after which she turned away and called on her sisters to join and look at the expression on Chan's face. The four goddesses of the Tenai school appeared in the yard with evil smiles and additional materials. The former soldier panicked, not realizing what these ladies planned, so he began to retreat slowly. Nevertheless, Jingwen did not allow this to happen and gave the order to use flour. Her friends opened the bags that were held in their hands and reached for white powder. The ladies surrounded their offender and, laughing joyfully, began to throw him with flour. Mr. Jiang did not particularly resist, although he was alarmed by such a turn of events. The goddesses remembered the next stage, and pepper cans began to appear in their hands. The former soldier began to suspect that the ladies planned to kill him while his colleagues were slowly approaching. The physical education teacher guessed that the girls planned everything in advance, so he stated that he would deal with them. The man did not wait for the attack and first rushed forward, holding out his hand. This helped him grab the wrist of one of the goddesses and force her to drop a pepper can. Jingwen was captured, so she ordered the girls to use a baton. Mei rushed to the attack, despite the fact that Mr. Jiang tried to reason them. The former soldier felt the movement behind him, realizing that Madame Zhao wants to take him by surprise. Due to his quick reaction, A physical education teacher was able to dodge, because of which the girl lost her balance. The club was selected and thrown to the floor, and Chung called on the goddesses to show what they were capable of. However, before the girls took the next step, Mr. Jiang felt someone else's presence. He turned towards the road and saw that two gangs of unfamiliar gangs were carefully watching them. Their appearance meant a new danger, but this time not only for Chan but also for girls. The young man instantly changed and ordered his colleagues to stop and hide behind him. Fiona looked closely at one of the gangs and recognized the guys in them, whom the physicist beat on Sunday. Both groups were slowly approaching teachers who were in no hurry to make contact with them. Soon people suspected that the group opposite them was Mr. Jiang's people and thought whether it was worth fighting with them. At this time, subordinates also believed that the gang opposite them was the 6 Chan. The former soldier noticed that not one of the groups was attacking and began to suspect that they did not know each other. The young man was well aware that this fact could play into their hands, so he squeezed a bag of flour tightly. The physical education teacher quietly said that it was time to arrange a good show between the bad guys. Mr. Jiang stepped forward and shouted, ordering the brothers to attack, which shocked his colleagues. But the gang under the control of Boss Sun immediately fell off the place and rushed into the attack. People from the gang, in turn, also rushed to attack, wanting to get a reward. At this time, Chen began to throw flour out of the bag to create an impromptu smoke curtain. The man took advantage of his poor visibility and ran forward, asking the girls to follow him. A real chaos was happening in the courtyard of the school, as the groups fought furiously with each other. Thanks to this, none of the battle participants noticed that their main goal was fled. The girls admired how the former soldier got out of the situation, although they considered enemies stupid. The goddesses planned to go home, but Chen recalled that they did not finish sorting out the relationship. Mayer noticed that they were just playing a joke over him in response to the scam. However, an ominous smile appeared on Mr. Jiang's face, and he said that he was also going to take revenge. Madame Zhao was very scared and began to cry, not understanding why their colleague is so evil. The rest of the goddess ran to calm his friend and got angry with the former soldier for his behavior. Chan smiled awkwardly and admitted that he was just joked, trying to cheer them up. However, Jingwen said that they were not funny, especially when they barely got out of the trouble. The sisters left Mr. Jiang one, without waiting for him to throw out another trick. The goddess of the Tenai school with high their heads retired to a safe place. At this time, the former soldier watched their backs and realized that he had really angered the ladies. In an attempt to somehow rectify the situation, he reached for them and asked for forgiveness. The girls only snorted for this, but allowed to put themselves in a taxi, although they left without Chan. The physical education teacher hesitated, thinking that it would not be easy to complete the task of his grandfather. Nevertheless, for a start, Mr. Jiang had to deal with the rich man's son and check whose gang came after him. Early in the morning, the teachers returned to school, while in the corridors it was quite deserted. Almost immediately, the former soldier met Jingwen in the corridor and wanted to know if she was angry at him. The girl was surprised that the young man remembers yesterday, and then Chung said that it was difficult to deal with the girls, as well as with morons. The brunette caught on this statement and asked who Mr. Jiang calls it stupid. The physical education teacher instantly realized his mistake and assured what he had in mind. In the end, the man asked Miss Ho not to be angry with him, and the girl released the situation. Before leaving, the brunette advised her colleague to be careful, recalling that serious people had come after him yesterday. And although Jing Wen knew that Chung was strong, she was worried about the moment that the bandits could play dirty. On this rather friendly note, they parted so that the goddess could begin to conduct classes. But the young man was going to go to KTV to try to find a rich child. Mr. Jian did not take much time to get to the right place. As soon as the guy went inside, he could clearly see how an unfamiliar brown-haired man follows him. The man decided to teach the one who dared to follow him, so he turned to the toilet. The unknown hurried forward that he also got into a secluded room. However, to the surprise of the young man, Mr. Jiang was waiting for him inside and immediately demanded to answer questions. Chan wanted to know who was following him and why, but an unknown person began to pretend that he simply went into the restroom. The former soldier was not tuned to long conversations, so he was going to solve the problem with fists. The brown-haired man did not have time to react in any way and received a rather strong blow to the face. The unknown fell to the floor, and he was thrown back several meters ago, demonstrating the power of Jiang. The young man crouched and admitted that he understood everything, although the former soldier believed that it was worthwhile to admit and save himself from pain. The physical education teacher wanted to finish the surveillance as soon as possible, so he reached for the unknown. Then the young man admitted that he was hired by Mr. Sun as a private detective. Brother said that his employer is his son, the general director of Song Holdings. Mr. Jiang was ready to release the detective if he gives Sun his contacts and says where he is most often. Without special thoughts, the private detective handed the business card to his boss to save himself from problems. The brown-haired man also spoke about the Black Boxing Hall, where he went to hire new people. A place for an underground boxing, which the rich was often visited for the sake of betting and excitement, was hidden in a massage salon. Mr. Jiang allowed the detective to go, ordering not to talk to him if they saw again. The young man hastened to run away, thinking that he was not paid enough for such a difficult task. Left alone with himself, the teacher took out the phone and began to dial the number of Suna. The guy picked up the phone and, without dealing with the one who calls him, told his location. Thus, the former soldier found out that his goal was in the Nanho massage salon. Mr. Jiang went to the exit of the KTV, wondering how it was easy to recognize the information he needed. As soon as the physical education teacher received the necessary data, he hung up and did not answer the questions of the young Suna. The young man clapped something in his mobile in surprise, not understanding who called him and why. Brother Ji asked what was the matter and promised that he would protect the client from the one who called. The young man admitted that he ceases to worry about the dangers when to be next to the boxer. After that, the rich man spoke about the teacher who should not be underestimated, because he is stronger than it looks. Nevertheless, a member of the gang assured that he, as a member of black boxing, is stronger than any hired workers. Young Song admitted that he would like to be broken by a miserable teacher as a payroll. Brother Guy considered this task too simple and promised that it would not take much time. The rich man was ready to give any money and even pay more after the matter was done. The boxer laughed and suggested that Mr. Jiang also break his leg as a bonus. At that moment, Chan reached the massage salon and told the administrator that he was friends with Mr. Sunday. Without unnecessary questions, the girl began to lead the new one into the office of the GI brother. The employee opened the door and informed his son's son that a friend had come to him. The former soldier went into the room and admitted that he was glad to finally find young Suna. The guys jumped up from their seats, while Chung said that he had found the master with the help of a detective. Nevertheless, the son of the rich man was not afraid, because next to him was a man who promised to avenge the man in front of them. Brother Guy got into the rack and promised the physical education teacher, which would not allow him to escape. The former soldier did not perceive the words of the wimp seriously, which greatly angered the boxer. A member of the gang, Nanho, rushed forward to teach the impudent, but Chan managed to evade. Some blows almost hooked an impeccable soldier than a man earned his praise. The brother of the guys once again swung, about to put an end to their short fight. This time, Mr. Zhang set the block and began to come closer to his enemy. The physical education teacher closed from all the blows, allowing himself to evaluate the forces of the boxer. In the end, he was tired of enduring weak blows, and Chung decided that his turn had come. In a matter of seconds, the former soldier was able to intercept his brother Gi. A member of the gang felt a strong grip on his fist and began to panic. Teacher Zhang began to bend someone else's hand and recalled that recently the boxer wanted to break his hand. The next moment, the former soldier hit his elbow, breaking the bone to his brother Gu. After that, the man threw the body of a member of the gang to his shoulder, using the enemy's vulnerability. Chan launched a boxer at the door that, under the weight of Mr. Guy, broke and flew into the corridor. It was over with the fighter, so the former soldier turned to Sun, recalling that he wanted to break his leg. The son of the rich man was frightened and promised that he would never dare to contact the teacher again. However, Mr. Jiang was not naive, so he understood that the words of the young boss were worth nothing. Then the young guy tried to take advantage of the fact that they are on the territory of Nanho. However, such little things have never been that could stop Chan's plans. Therefore, the man kicked boss Suna, admitting that he would scare him with such things. The guys were in one of the offices on the second floor of the fake massage salon. The teacher was slowly approaching the master and admitted that he was going to teach him a couple of lessons. The young man was trembling with fear and begging not to beat him, and was ready to pay any money, pleading his guilt. However, at that moment, the members of the Nanho gang appeared in a broken doorway. One of them demanded that the one who dared to arrange a showdown on their territory. But Mr. Jiang was not going to speak what his name was, wanting to just teach boss Suna. The rich man saw Fenga's brother the opportunity to avoid the revenge of Chan, so he begged to help. However, a member of the gang was the same as they had, if only not on the territory of the massage salon. Mr. Song decided that Nanho was on his side, so he screamed so that the former soldier would leave. Mr. Jiang did not even blink his eye, irritably recalling that the young man should his leg. In the next instant, Chan kicked someone else's limb, forcing the boy to scream in pain. Brother Feng was outraged that he did not obey him, and the teacher, in turn, did not understand why he had to do this. A member of the gang, Nanho, got angry and decided to teach a lesson to teach a stupid insolent, killing him right in the room. The former soldier mocked Feng, although he admitted that threats were possible for him very well. The man angrily urged the rest of the gang members to attack Chan and kill him. The gangsters took out their weapons and rushed to the attack on the not impressed by Mr. Jiang. With the help of his impeccable close combat skills, a physical education teacher easily dealt with the gang members. One by one, they went on flight, unable to confront the former soldier. Brother Feng recognized the strength of the enemy and decided that he should deal with the insolent himself. The man moved forward, but Chan evaded his blow without much difficulty. The next moment, the leader of a small group also missed a strong blow to the face. Mr. Jiang towered over the gang members and recalled that he had come for personal purposes, but he could always deal with Nanho. After that, the physical education teacher headed for the exit of the massage salon. Brother Feng tried to get to his feet, watching his opponent with his back. Nevertheless, Chan was glad that everything turned out so, because he was able to stretch the muscles a little. The rest of the gang members suggested calling more people, but Feng knew that it would be useless. Instead, the young man ordered the boss to call, confident that only he would be able to deal with Jiang. Everyone who belonged to Nanho wanted to take revenge on him for daring to contact them. Several days have passed since the incident, and the former soldier, as usual, was at school. The teachers of Jiang were worried about the quiet behavior of two gangs, which he managed to angry. However, Fizruk decided not to think too much about it, especially when he saw Fiona. The goddess gently smiled at the friend who greeted her and asked if she was angry at him. One of the goddesses remembered their last meeting and irritably ordered not to disturb her. Then the young man pleaded his guilt and proposed to bring Fiona to dinner as an apology. The teacher did not want to go because the invitation sounded not sincerely. Then Chan said that Sim would call. The former soldier informed the girl that he would go and invite Ms. Chu to dinner. The goddess screamed, ordering to stop, and said that she would go, since the young man promises to pay. Mr. Zhang hinted that he knew the real reason for her consent, but Fiona fiercely denied her jealousy. The man allowed himself to enjoy the reaction of the beauty a little, recalling that he could have dinner with another. However, a friend aggressively assured him that he could have dinner with whom he wanted. In the end, they went to the institution, and Fiona promised that she would devastate Chan's wallet. The couple took a table in a rather expensive place for a teacher's salary, and the girl asked if Jiang felt offended. A former soldier could spend much more, but decided that it was worth playing along with a colleague. He lied that Miss Fiona taught him properly and left him without a single penny. This did not touch the girl, and she recalled that recently Chung mocked her at the KTV. The physical education teacher laughed awkwardly and called the companion demanding, admitting that it would not be easy to support. This judgment was outraged by the lady, and she shouted that not a gold hunter and in general is an expert in financial management. Miss Fiona irritably turned away from a friend and said that she still forgives him, thanks to this invitation. Nevertheless, she noted that his judgment about her makes her merge only stronger. Mr. Jiang was sincerely upset and asked his girlfriend not to be sad. This statement caused another wave of anger, and Fiona demanded a colleague not to carry nonsense. Although, in fact, her heart was excited when she heard that Chung wanted to invite her to a date. They did not have time to finish this conversation because a waiter appeared next to them. He put the dishes on the table, allowing the former soldier to transfer the topic for food to the disappointment of Fiona. That is why she decided to show the initiative and ask if Jiang's True wants them to become a couple. The physical education teacher said that he actually considers the girl a beauty and would like to be with her. And again, they were interrupted. But this time, the rest of the goddess appeared behind them. The sisters were unhappy that the teacher went for dinner with Mr. Jiang. Miss Fiona came to the meeting, nervously asking how they ended up in this place. The sisters recalled that the friend herself told them about him, and the goddess decided that they would sit together. Thus, the former soldier had to agree to change his place and sit on the side. Fiona allowed the rest to order everything they want, explaining that Chen apologizes for bullying. Mr. Jiang confirmed her words, hoping that the girls would forgive him, thanks to delicious food. Chio Sim said that his fate should depend on the goddess, which he fated first. Miss Fiona smiled embarrassedly and promised to think about future results. The physical education teacher promised that the next time it would apologize 100 times better. This melted the hearts of the girls, and they decided that it was worth noting with alcohol. Mr. Jiang did not mind paying for beer if it meant that his friends were spending the time well. A joyful atmosphere reigned at the table, and the guys noted the reunification of alcohol. The teachers clinked with glasses and joyfully drank beer, enjoying a delicious dinner. Thus, they did not even notice how they managed to empty 6 bottles. May and Fiona were exposed to alcohol stronger, so they fell asleep right on the table. Jingwen was furious, believing that they should not be allowed to drink so much, given that they had to conduct classes. Mr. Jiang tried to calm the girl, promising that he would bring the ladies to the house. The 3 goddesses headed after Chan, and Miss Ho was forced to return to school. The former soldier decided to take drunken ladies to the apartment of Madame Xiao because he knew exactly where she was. Chiu Sim helped the guy put his friends on the sofa, and it was decided to wait until they came to their senses. The man asked the teacher to look after the goddesses so that he could do something to them. Soon Mr. Jiang returned with 3 plates of sobering soup. One of the goddesses was surprised that the colleague was able to cook something so quickly, so on his own. In fact, Sim was fascinated by this ability of Chan, but reasonably decided not to talk about it. Moreover, she noticed that a physical education teacher is too well oriented in the House of May. The young man felt that he had made a mistake and a little nervously admitted that there was a long story behind this. Fortunately, he had a bowl of useful soup at his hand, with the help of which he distracting Sim. And while the girl ate on her own, he hastened to go to 2 goddesses requiring help. On this day, finally a meeting with the boss in the fake massage salon Nanho took place. Brother Feng introduced the leader Mr. Suna, who paid him, but was beaten. Boss Nanho was outraged that someone dared to rage on their territory and leave unharmed. The ward excitedly spoke about how good the former soldier was and admitted that they themselves would not have coped with him. The man could not believe that an ordinary guy could be so strong. The son of a rich man intervened in the conversation, telling that according to Jiang's research, he is an ordinary teacher. After that, the young man took out a suitcase with money and invited the boss Nanho to accept 500,000. The young man promised that he would give twice, as if the gang could take revenge on him. However, the leader was angry with such an offer, since he was not going to work for Suna. The rich man tried to justify himself and stated that he proposed to provide a gift for the group. But despite this, the boss Nanho told the young master to take his money and get out of his salon. The young man did not understand what was happening, but his brother Feng convinced him to leave, promising to talk later. Mr. Song hastened to retire as quickly as he could walk with the help of a crutch. The subordinate guessed that they would no longer work with a young man who could not give anything but money. However, Brother Feng was more interested in what they were going to do with the guy who raged in the cabin. Boss Nanho was not ready to forgive the one who violated the rule of their gang and was eager to take revenge. The next day, a physical education teacher, as usual, spent his working time at school. In the middle of the day, the director called him to her office to ask how things are moving. Chan did not immediately understand what she was talking about, so the mother reminded that the order of her grandfather is an authority number 1. The worried Jiang replied that he always remembers the order, but cannot rush in such delicate things. The woman demanded that her son give her at least some success in relations with colleagues. The blonde noticed how the former soldier blushed at the mention of the kiss, and this was amused. She also reminded the young man that the goddesses have no shortage of fans, and Chan promised that he was doing everything that he was capable of. Suddenly, the director remembered the news that she wanted to share with her son. The former soldier very vividly felt that he would not like what she would say. And so it was, since the woman appointed Chinro his mentor in love. Mr. Jiang did not think that the younger sister could somehow help in conquering hearts. He said this to his mother, but she was adamant and ordered to appear in the first lesson this evening. The director was sure that Chinro would teach Chan to communicate correctly with the girls. Thus, the former soldier had no choice, and he was obliged to meet his sister. With the onset of the evening, they met in the living room, and Jiang openly said that he did not think that he needed the help of a child. Chinro was outraged by such an attitude, and threatened that she would tell the Pope that Chung refuses to study. The physical education teacher was not suitable for such a situation, so he stopped Mrs. Jiang and promised to obey. The teenager blossomed in front of her eyes and stated that as a teacher, she would follow the successes of her student. First of all, Chinro said that in order to start meeting, you need to be able to understand the girl. The former soldier believed that he was doing this perfectly, and the angry lady ordered not to interrupt her. Further, the teenager said that the guy should understand what his companion is thinking about. Chinro frowned and warned that if Chung thinks she knows what his friend was thinking about, then he could always be mistaken. The teenager said that all girls have weaknesses with which they are easy to get. The young lady passed to the third important point, asking where, according to her brother, it is better to go on a date. The former soldier noticed that this question was very easy and offered to go to dinner, shopping, or cinema. She shook her head and talked about the fact that she was better to go to the place like a small park, especially when she gets dark. Chan did not understand how this would help, and the sister shouted irritably that she was so more likely to take the companion by the hand to reassure her. However, the most important advice of the teenager was the request to be more active and show himself from the dominant side. The teenager said that without power, Jiang could not make violent kisses or cables. The former soldier did not understand what nonsense was talking about, but she claimed that he was teaching his Bible of love. In the end, the young man invited the girl to calm down and remember that she herself was still too small. Shinro shouted irritably that she would soon grow and become more beautiful than the goddesses, after which she left. Mr. Jiang was left alone and thought that perhaps some words of a teenager could make sense.